All right, I think we live everywhere. Yeah, I'm back again for another coding challenge. It's been about a week and a half. I promised I was gonna do these once a week, or I promised myself at least. But yeah, I almost made a week, but it's been a little bit over a week. But yeah, I'm about to get back on here and do another one, do another medium level problem. This one's called Zigzag Conversion. And if you haven't seen me do these before, I just do these. These are part of coding interview challenges. They're prevalent in like big tech companies, but not all the time. Some companies have stopped asking them. Some companies never asked them. But a lot of the big tech companies, Google, the FANG companies, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, a lot of those companies used to ask these questions at least, and some of them still do. And it's still pretty prevalent in the industry when you're a coder or a programmer or software engineer, that you might get asked these coding challenge type questions. And so what I do is just get on live, pick a problem, do it live, helps me practice, hopefully teaches people some stuff. And then people teach me some stuff sometimes when I in the comments or whatever. So and then I usually answer some questions after. I don't know how much time after I'll have today, but I usually answer just tech industry questions after the fact. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a couple seconds, and then I'm probably gonna just hop right into the problem. Yeah, this one's called Zigzag Conversion. It's an interesting problem. The first time I did it, I was able to get through it without any help, without looking it up. But I will say that it took me longer than I probably would have time for in a real interview. So that's good, but it's also like, it's good for practice, but it's also like, I know that like if I got this problem in a real interview, I probably took too long to do it. So I'm practicing it again here in front of all of y'all, and we'll see, how it goes. Somebody on TikTok said trample by love, said actual projects and show them those instead. I mean, you got to do what they ask for in the interview. I mean, you can't tell them what you want to do in the interview, right? So, if they ask you to do a coding challenge, you can't just say, hey, I'm going to show you the projects. But I do agree with the sentiment that I would prefer that be the interview process. And some companies do that. Some companies do, ask for projects, or they'll give you a take-home project. You do it. You bring it back. You talk about it. I love those interviews a lot more. So to be clear, I don't really like this interview style for coding, software engineering roles. I'm not a fan of it, but it is prevalent. And I did have to learn how to do these in order to sort of like level up in multiple ways in my career. And so that's why I get on here and do these. One day, maybe we won't be doing these anymore at a high scale, and I'll stop doing these and just do something else. But for now, I'm going to do these, and hopefully it helps people. Hopefully people learn it. But I appreciate you commenting that for sure, because I would love to all interviews to be more like that. Where do you get your problems from? LeetCode.com. So this is LeetCode.com, called Zigzag Conversion. Let me see if I could show the title there. LeetCode.com. Oh, and this is the last time I did it, so I'm going to erase that. So I can't see that. Yeah. So yeah, it's called LeetCode.com. LeetCode. .com. This is a medium level problem. Yep, this is LeetCode.com, medium level problem. And then somebody said, are learning these algorithms useful after you get hired? So it depends on your role for sure. Like there's a lot of roles you can get where you probably would never have to do any of these algorithms. Learning data structures, usually it's called like data structures and algorithms, is sort of what you do to start doing leet code problems, coding challenges. Data structures, you're definitely going to use them on a job every time you code almost. I mean, you're going to be using some sort of data structure. You need to understand how to implement and use data structures, and what's the pros and cons of each, and how to implement them to solve problems with code. AI is doing a lot of that now, AI is doing a lot of the coding. A lot of coding jobs are AI assisted now, or they're expected to be. But you still need to understand what the data structures are being written, even if you're not writing the code directly. So yeah, you still use data structures, but algorithms, it depends on the role. Now, I will say I've been in a position in my career where people have written bad algorithms. I've written bad algorithms and they cost the company money. So what happens if you write a bad algorithm that, for instance, has to use expensive resource, has to use tokens for a service that you're calling, or it uses data, or it's inserting or doing database lookups. If your algorithm isn't performant and it's doing something, or it's using like CPU like space, that's one a lot of people understand. It's like when your CPU utilization gets out of control. If your algorithm isn't optimal, I have been in production environments. This is not when you're just doing a side project, right? This is when you got hundreds of thousands of users, maybe even millions of users that are using something. If your algorithm is not optimal, you could be using a lot more resources than you could be. And those resources cause the company have to scale the service either vertically or horizontally. You either have to buy more servers and scale horizontally, or have to increase the RAM, or increase the storage, or increase the space on the machines. Even if they're using like AWS or a Google Cloud platform or whatever, even if they're using the cloud, like they still have to pay for that. And so if your algorithm could have been using 50%, 75% less resources, and you're costing the company more money, then that's when it does matter to know these data structures and algorithms. So I just went on a rant there, but that was a great question. Somebody asked about like, why is this valuable? Knowing data structures and algorithms, knowing how to optimize code, even in the face of AI still gets things wrong sometimes. Like it still can, because you're commanding it, you can command it wrong. You could tell it to do something that's not efficient. And so you still need to be able to review what AI is doing. Because that's basically what my role is starting to turn into, less of pure coding and more of like AI assisted, like I'm managing it like AI basically. So yeah. Free code camp, I learned from square one. Yeah, man, if you're using free, you don't have to start with LeetCode. If you're learning how to code, actually, I wouldn't even start with LeetCode. That's not where you learn how to code. So free code camp is definitely a better place to learn how to code. Whoever commented that. But yeah, somebody said leak coding is done. I hope so, man. I hope it's done. But I just I know a guy, well, I don't even say a guy, I mean he's like a friend that just interviewed for Facebook and they're still asking leak code questions. So it's not done yet. I mean, it may be done eventually. So I'm still doing these until that day when they're completely gone. See, somebody just commented. I got this one as an easy question at Meta IC4. So somebody got this literal question that I'm about to do. So it's not done. Fang still does leak code. Is never gonna be done. I hope so, man. I hope it's done one day, man. But I mean, hey, I'm still on here doing them. So I'm trying to practice myself by doing these live. Also help people that are getting into this type of thing. It's hard, man. It was a point in my career where I didn't want to do these. Like I refused. And eventually I just had to kind of bite the bullet and just say, because I kind of wanted to get to new levels of, honestly, man, I want to get to new levels of salary. And so you got to go for those FANG companies to start unlocking those new levels of salary. And so FANG interviews, and when I say FANG, I mean big tech. So these are the companies that you use all the time, like Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, and not even just those, Microsoft, Airbnb, Uber, Square, like all these big companies. A lot of them, some of them have stopped. I think Square might have stopped asking them. I think when I interviewed with them, they maybe weren't asking them. So, but a lot of them still do. So it's kind of hard to avoid sometimes, depending on what type of roles you're going for. But if you want to avoid it, you can for sure. You can skip past this video. If you watch it on TikTok and it came down, you can skip past. I hope you don't, but or you can skip the interviews when you get them. Like if a recruiter says they're asking leak code questions, you can say, hey, I refuse to do those, and that's just your prerogative. But for now, I'm going to keep practicing them and until that day comes. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, somebody said FANG is crazy competitive and horrible work-life balance. I go for mid-level finance or health care companies now. I'm right there with you, Bryce. Like, what I ended up doing was, so what I did is I'm at like a mid-level tech company right now, working as a software engineer. And what I did is, this was a while ago, so some of my coworkers might be on here watching or something. This was a little while ago. But I just went to FANG and started interviewing with FANG because I wanted to see where I was at. I wanted to see where my skills was at with interviewing, and I wanted to see financially where I should be. Like, what were people getting offered? So I did those interviews, failed some of them, passed some of them, got some good offers, and then, you know, you can take those offers back. You can either take the job at the new company, or you can take those offers back and, you know, they may give you a counter offer, but never take an offer back if you're not willing to leave. You got to be willing to leave and take an offer back. And I know some people say don't do that. Never take a counter offer. That hasn't been my experience, man. I'm not going to sit here and try to convince y'all to do that. But in my experience, it's been a good thing. People say, oh, if you take the counter offer, then they're just going to fire you later. Or if they could have gave you the money, they could have gave you the money earlier. This is a job, man. This is how it works, man. The next company you go to not going to be better than the last one that you're at. You think you're going to go to another company and the grass is greener. They're going to be some saints that going to treat you perfect and pay you everything. These folks pay you the least they can at all times. So whether I take a counter offer at my same job or take a new offer at the new job, they're all going to be in the corporate BS, the same corporate BS. So I took a counter offer years ago, and everything's been straight. So I don't believe that. I think people just talking. But anyway, I'm just sitting here talking. I'm supposed to be doing the problem. So y'all keep asking questions. I'll probably come back to them once I start doing this problem. So but yeah, I appreciate the questions so far. But I'll definitely come back and do some more questions. I'll probably try to answer some while I'm doing this, and but it takes a little bit of focus to do these. I'm not even gonna lie. So I'll probably answer most of the questions afterward. But anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and get started on this problem before I lose my focus to do it. All right, so this problem is called Zigzag Conversion. LeetCode.com. That's LeetCode.com. That's where you can find a lot of these types of problems. It's not the only place, but LeetCode is probably the most popular site for finding these types of problems. This one's called Zigzag Conversion. It's a medium level problem, so LeetCode categorizes the problems as easy, medium, or hard. I think they may have another very hard, but I think it's just medium, easy, medium, and hard. They do show you what companies ask these as far as the big tech companies. I'm not paying for premium right now. Somebody asked about actively looking. I'm not actively looking right now, but I always just try to stay practiced a little bit. But they usually tell you the companies if you have LeetCode premium, but I don't got it. But this is really good. It actually does really work. It actually really tells you what companies are asking this if you're going for some of the bigger companies. So anyway, the problem goes as such. The string PayPal is hiring. This is just a string. It's just an example. It's written in a zigzag pattern on a given number of rows like this. You may want to display this. I don't know what they're talking about there, but it's displayed properly here. So basically, they got this string, and based on a given number of rows, it's gonna zigzag. So if you see here, it's like pay going down, and then it's going up this way, like PAL, and then it's going back down, then it's going back up, then it's going back down, then it's going back up, then it's going down. This was kind of hard for me to see what was going on when I first was looking at this problem. But just to do that one more time, you start here, PayPal, you're going down, you zig down, then you zag diagonally up, then you zig down, then you zag diagonally, dang, I can't even talk no more. Diagonally up, and then you zig down, then go up again, and you zig down. So they want you to basically like form this string into a zigzag pattern. That's why they call it zigzag conversion. And then after you kind of convert it, they want you to read it line by line. They want you to like convert it line by line, actually taking each line and pressing everything together and just putting it in order. So instead of being PayPal is hiring, it'll be like this word, and then this word, and then this word. So as you see, it's like that first word, then this is the second line, and then this is the third line. And so basically this is asking you to convert this using a zigzag method to this. Write the code that will take a string and make this conversion given a number of rows. And so that's the thing too. This one has 3 rows. The problem also is saying that in these examples here that you can have a different number of rows. So they may give you the same input string but a different number of rows. So like for this one, when you have a different number of rows, the zigzag pattern is taller. You know what I mean? So it's like instead of 1, 2, 3, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you zigzag back up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then zigzag back up, and then try to go down again. And remember, this one was 3, and so it can be. This is dynamic. The number of rows, how tall the zigzag pattern is. So that kind of adds a little bit of complexity to the problem. If you just got one number of row, then whatever your string is, of course, you would just print it out across, because you're not going to go up or down because the number of rows is short. So number of rows is always going to be 1. These are constraints. So if you're ever in an interview, the interviewer might give you the constraints. Some interviewers might not give you the constraints. So sometimes you may need to learn how to ask for these. And if you do enough of these problems, you'll start to learn what to ask for. You'll start to see what the inputs are. So here our inputs are S and number of rows. And then we have an output of what we need to transform the string to. So S is our input string, and this is the number of rows we need to zigzag. And then this is the output we should get in example 1. And then there's same thing for example 2. We should basically get this zigzag pattern, but we need to print it out like this. Print it out line by line. Just going from left to right, top down. Just print it out. So like PI is at the bottom. And then this one is like the third line. This one's like somewhere like this. It's like this one's the second line. And it's the first one. So I think y'all understand what I'm saying. I hope so. But yeah. And so yeah, you zigzag pattern. What was I saying? Oh yeah, about the constraints. So you see your inputs. You might have to ask the interview, what can, like, I have 0 number of rows. What's the max number of rows I can have? How long can S be empty? Can it be an empty string? How long is that going to be? The reason you want to know these things is because depending on what programming language you use, if there's considered like overflow and upper and negative bounds, like max and lower numbers for integers and strings, and so there's a chance that if the input's too large that you could overflow depending on the programming language you use, you could overflow the variable and cause a runtime error. And your algorithm will need to solve for that. It'll need to like check and make sure like, hey, this input isn't too large, and before I try to set it or before I try to use it or whatever the case is. So my algorithm knows how to handle this issue. Usually what LeetCode does is, or what will happen in the interview, if they don't tell you these constraints, then you have to ask them, and they'll usually say, hey, you don't have to worry about any kind of overflows. You don't have to worry about any kind of like the number being too far negative or too far positive. Like in JavaScript, an integer can be like, it's like 2 billion or 80 something. I don't know. It's like 200 something billion negative and 200 something billion positive. It's some really large number. Here they give you the constraints, and they basically tell you the length of the string, the length of S. So the length of this string is always going to at least be 1, less than or equal to. The string length is greater than or equal to 1, and it's less than or equal to 1,000. So this string will never be more than 1,000, which means in Java, I'm going to use JavaScript for this. So in JavaScript, it's not going to go beyond the bounds of what the language can handle for a string. In Python, it's probably the same case, probably in every language, honestly. Except maybe like assembly or something, it might be a different case, but yeah, here it's fine. S consists of English letters, lowercase and uppercase, and it can have commas and periods in it. I don't know if that really changes my problem too much, how I would solve this, but it's important to just know this, because you might want to ask the interviewer, like, is there any weird characters that I won't be able to handle, or whatever the case. So you may want to ask the interviewer this if they don't give it to you. And then this is maybe an important one, like, what are the number of rows possible? So like I asked earlier, like, can I have 0 number of rows? Do I need to handle that case in my algorithm? Well, no, because it's always going to at least be 1, and it's going to be no more than 1,000, less than or equal to 1,000. So the constraints are pretty important to clarify in the interview. The interviewer will probably be looking for that, for you to do that. If they're there, they're probably looking for you to at least read them and notice them. If they're not there, they're probably expecting you to ask for them, the constraints. And so anyway, I know I'm kind of rambling on that, but like, this is important stuff, I feel like, for an interview, for people that may be joining that's like haven't been through an interview like this, the structure and the style of it. Because they're going to start out by reading the problem to you probably. And then you'll probably want to read through it yourself. You'll probably want to like check the examples yourself and then go through the constraints like I just said yourself. But after you get through that part, the first part is just making sure you understand the problem. And so you may ask about the constraints. That also may mean you ask about the examples. You can ask the interviewer like, hey, I don't understand like what this is doing here. And the interviewer will probably explain that part that I just explained to you. Like, this is the zig, this is the zag, this is the zig, this is the zag, this is zig. Because when I first saw this, I couldn't really see the zigzag. I just saw like a bunch of characters at first sight. And so they probably would have been better for LeetCode to do is put a line through here so you could see that it was like lines through here so you could see that it was like it was a zigzag. But they didn't do that, so the interviewer will probably help you out with that. The interviewer is going to help you understand the problem with clarifying questions. So you should ask as many questions as you need to, because if you don't understand something, there's no point in continuing. And I know a lot of people, these problems are time-based, so a lot of people try to rush through this part. But if you don't understand something, I have to give these interviews too, and give these interviews myself, these type of interviews. And I hate it when somebody's capable technically, but they just simply didn't read the problem and didn't spend enough time just understanding the problem. And they get to the end and they get stuck on some tiny little thing, and it's literally in the thing, and it's like, I tell them, like, I'm pretty nice, so I'll just tell them, hey, why don't you go back and read the problem statement, because I know what they're missing, because I asked the question. I'll say, hey, go back and read the problem statement, and maybe you'll find something there, and then they'll find it, because I want to see them actually. I'm trying to test for things, you know what I mean? I'm trying to see how they work, see how they think, and so I'll help them. But some interviewers won't help you like I would. I feel like I'm pretty helpful in the interview, more than many that I've been interviewed by. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling on that. But anyway, we got the problem down. We basically know that we're going to get a string. We need to try to zigzag it in some sort of sense, and then we need to convert it to this when we print it out after it's zigzag. We need to just go line by line and print it out the way they want us to print it out. That's the output that they're looking for. They're not looking for a zigzag output. They're looking for the zigzag output like smashed together, like condensed, and printed out line by line, left to right, top to bottom. So when I get to this point, I understand the problem. What I try to do is I try to at least think through it in my head and try to talk with the interviewer about a solution. If I'm just doing this by myself, I at least try to think in my head, like, how would I do this? How would I solve this in my head first? And then try to take the way I would solve it in my head and convert it to data structures and algorithms that I'm familiar with, and patterns and approaches and solution types that I'm familiar with, and see try to do some sort of pattern recognition, which I'll probably talk about later, of what solution and data structures and algorithms that this problem match to. What can I use out of my toolbox to help me solve this problem? And so when I'm looking at this, how would I think about it? So looking at this, I know I have a number of rows that I basically need to zig through and then kind of like zag up through. And how I'm thinking about it, if I'm doing this just by hand, I mean, when you're doing it by hand, this one's really simple. There's some problems that are a little bit easier to kind of think through by hand, but if you're doing this by hand, you would just obviously just write, in the pattern that it's telling you to write. You would see what number of rows it told you to write it in, and then you would just go down that many rows, and then you would zig back up, and then go down that many rows and zig. But when you're programming, you kind of got to think about it differently. A program it's not just a thing that's just looking and it's just writing stuff. Like, you have to code it to be able to do it. You have to write code to be able to do it. And so it's a little bit different way of how you got to think about it. But if I'm thinking about it in the sense of just how I would do it in my head, like, I would start at this position up here. I would go down the number of rows that I need to go based on the problem. And then when I zigzag back up, I would just zigzag back up till I got to this 0 position, like this top position up here, or 1, or whatever you want to call it. And then I would go down again, 3, or, you know, I'm already on 1, 2, 3, and then I would go backwards till I got to the top again. But every time I go over, I would make sure I go over 1 space. And so then I'll go down, you know. So, I mean, that's pretty obvious. I mean, I'm not telling y'all nothing that you couldn't do, like a kindergartner couldn't do. Or anybody that played, like, crossword puzzle, or I don't know, what is a word search or something like that. But programmatically, that's kind of where the difficulty comes in. And then converting it to this. Like, I think after I get done doing it manually, then I would just go one by one. I would start with this row and then just start printing out the characters one by one. Then I would go to this row, start printing it out next, add it to a string, and then I go to this row and then add this at the end. So, I mean, it's pretty simple, like doing it in your head. I mean, obviously, you kind of get that from even reading the problem, what you need to do there. So, I would pretty quickly in the interview probably go to, like, trying to figure out a technical solution. So, here, I mean, I think thinking through it like that does still help you, because what I see that I need to do from looking at this string is, I see at the end when I read this line by line, is that I'm basically appending 3 strings. I'm taking this string, putting it at the start, and then I'm adding this one to it, and then I'm adding this one to it. So when I'm thinking of converting this problem to data structures and algorithms, I'm thinking I at least need like 3 places to store this line, a place to store this line, and a place to store this line. And that's based on the number of rows. It's dynamic. So if I got 4 rows, then I actually want a place to store 4 lines. Or down here, store 4 lines. And I want my algorithm to basically populate these 4 places that I'm storing. And the best place to store something like this to me is an array, a character array, technically here. And I would just, as I'm building this zigzag, I would just store my characters in each of these places, and then at the end I would just look at my first array, print it out, look at my second array, print it out, look at my third array, print it out, and then return this as the output. The problem is, how do I build these 3 arrays, or these 4 arrays that I need? And that's the zigzag pattern. Like, I need to add things to these arrays in a zigzag pattern. I need, when I'm looking at my first thing, I need to add it to the first array. When I'm looking at my second thing, I need to add it to the second array. When I'm looking at my third thing, I need to add it to the third array. When I get to the third array, I'm done. I'm at the end. So I need to know when I'm at the end, when I'm at the end of number of rows. Well, I got this variable here, so I will know that. And then I need to go backwards. So then when I get to P, I need to add it to the second thing. When I get back to A, I need to add it to the first thing. But now I know I'm at the first thing, so I know I need to go back down again. And so basically, you sort of like don't even really have to think about zigzagging. You more or less need to think about where you add the next character. Like, which one of these buckets do I add the next character to? Is it 1, 2, or 3? In this case, is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? Because the spaces don't really matter because of how I need to print the string out at the end. I just need to make sure that I add the right letter at the right time to the right row. And that's basically what I need to do. So I need to know when I'm going down, and I need to know when I'm going back up. That's really it. I need to know when and so how I'm thinking about it, I need to know when I'm calling down zig, and I'm calling zag up, or up zag. So I need to know when I'm zigging, and I need to know when I'm zagging. Zig, zag, zigzag. And as I'm zigging and zagging, I'm just keeping track of what row I'm in, and I'll just keep adding characters to the necessary row. When I get to the top, I know I need to start zagging or zigging, I'm sorry. And when I get to the bottom, I know I need to zag back up. And so that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to create a data structure that'll allow me to have 3 arrays or 4 arrays or however many dynamic amount of arrays. And so what I'm thinking that's going to be to me would be an array of arrays or a matrix or grid. I don't even know what to technically call that data structure. I think you would call it a matrix, an array of arrays. And maybe a matrix has to be equal lengths. I don't know. Or maybe it's just an array of arrays in that case, since the arrays will be different lengths. So it maybe not be a grid or a matrix. It may just be an array of arrays. But in any case, I need an array of arrays. So if I have 4 rows or 3 rows, that will be the number of things in my first array. And then each of these themselves will be an array. And then I would just simply just go through, keep track of what row I'm on, and just add characters to that row as I process this string. That's the one thing I didn't say. I need to loop through this string first and process every letter into the right row that it needs to be into. And the way I know that is what row I'm currently on and whether I'm zigging or whether I'm zagging. And I'll be able to implement the row based on the direction that I'm going. I'm going down, am I zigging, or I'm going up, or I'm zagging. So I'll either move up a row or move down a row based on the zig and zag. And so in the interview, you might, like, if you're like, they used to have interviews with whiteboards. You used to have to go into the office and get on a whiteboard, and like, you might not even code. Like, you might just be up there just writing stuff. Which was, that was crazy. Like, you might actually have to write the code out on a board. Now with virtual interviews, it's been more prevalent now. You're not writing as much. So typically what you do here, maybe write some pseudocode. I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to jump to the code. Hopefully I explained it well. But what some people recommend, and what I even recommend too, is maybe doing some pseudocode in that case. The problem with pseudocode, I feel like, is I wouldn't even say it's a problem with it. If you got time, do it if you're moving fast. But these interviews are such a time crunch. Like, the way I'm talking to y'all now, I would not be giving as much extra information. Like, all this stuff I wouldn't have to say in an interview. I would be moving a lot faster than this. Because like some of these, like somebody said before, Facebook gives this as an easy problem, even though it's a medium on LeetCode. Facebook wants you to do easy problems in like 15 minutes, or like sometimes they give you 20, but a lot of times it's like 15 minutes and then they're going to ask you another easy one. And so you only got 45 minutes. So it's like you got like 10 minutes of wiggle room and you got 2 easy problems. Or sometimes they may give you a hard problem that you need, a medium problem that you need to solve in 30 minutes. Or they may give you a hard problem that you need to solve in the whole 45 minutes. And so you really got to be able to move kind of fast. And so if you're writing, like, I feel like if you're just doing like some quick notes and quick pseudocode, just showing the interviewer your process, that's fine. But don't like write like so much pseudocode that you're basically doing a solution, because then you could have just been doing it, and you really need that time to get to a working solution. So I'll just be careful about it, but it's definitely recommended to do it. And the reason you want to do that is because you want to talk like I was talking about the solutions. You want to tell the interviewer what you're going to do, the interviewer what you want to do before you do it. Because if you don't talk to the interviewer and tell them what you're doing, or her what you're doing, then they don't get a chance to actually help you if you get into a bad spot. Because like your solution or approach may be completely off base. And so some interviewers, if you like bring up your solution, talk through it first and say, hey, what do you think about this? You know, should I proceed? They may tell you, nah, I want you to think about this, or maybe think about that, or did you think about this case? Or they'll be able to maybe help guide you. Some interviewers won't do it, but most will. Like if you talk to them, that's the structure that's expected in these kind of interviews, is before you just jump to code, you talk through the interviewer about the solution. That's why I spent so much time just not writing any code and just talking through it. And I think I talked through it so much that I don't really need to write pseudocode. Usually I would just go through it really fast. If I was going to write some pseudocode, while I'm writing the pseudocode, I would still explain what I was talking about. And so now that I've kind of over explained it, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, that's one technique you can use in an interview. As long as you do some form of talking through it first, you should be fine, because then that will give them a chance to stop you if you're way off base. And they'll probably, and a lot of times they kind of know, like they've done enough of these that they'll know that, yeah, I think that's a good solution. Or if you're right on track, they'll just tell you, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think you should go ahead and try to implement that. And if not, they may tell you, hey, you might want to think a little bit more about it. Like, what about this? And I don't know how that would work with this. And just try to work with them. Is no harm in that. Like, if people think they're gonna take off points they're not gonna help you if they don't want to. Like, they're not gonna just tell you the answer, and they're not gonna, you can't just sit there and say, hey, what the answer is to them, of course. But a smart interviewer is gonna know when you're just asking for, should I proceed in working with them versus just asking for the solution. So, anyway, that's what I would say. So I've talked through all the solution. Somebody in the comments, I'm kind of reading the comments, but yeah, somebody was like, this is this is easy, just ask Claude Code. I mean, I get it, y'all. I get this every time I get on here, man, about the AI thing. I mean, we just came on here. People were in the comments saying that they still get these leak code problems in interviews. So that's just the reality we're in right now. Maybe one day the interviews will change. I heard Facebook is starting to change, and they may start to let you use AI in interviews. Maybe that happens one day, and then I'll stop doing these. So I hope that's fair enough. So yeah, I'm about to jump to the code. I'm gonna jump to the code, and I'm gonna actually put the problem at the top. And I know I did a lot of talking before I jumped into this, but you got to do this. Like, that's the part of the best practices for doing these type of problems in interviews. You don't want to just jump to the code. Now, I didn't mean to put that back up there. I meant to put this up there. You don't want to just jump to the code so fast, because I've given these interviews and seen people jump to the wrong code so fast, and then they just end up just getting stuck, man. And I can't help them, because they just already jumped to the code, so I can't just tell them, like, go all the way back. I could try to guide them, but once they get in that code and they're trying to, like, figure it out, it's harder to get them back. Versus if they just talk through the solution first, I can kind of stop them and redirect them. And like, hey, how about try this? And I maybe do that. Sometimes I give a little hint, but if you don't give me a chance, if you're not being collaborative, then there's not as much I can do. I can try, but it's going to be much harder. So anyway, problems at the top of the screen. I'm about to start working on it. So like I said, over here, these is example one. These are my inputs, S and numRows, and then the output they're expecting is the zigzag string all concatenated together. And back over here, leak code is what leak code gives you is the scaffolding of the problem. Here's the input S, here's the input numRows, and I just need to simply return, the result. I'm just gonna go ahead and type that in there, or you can call it like output or whatever you want to call it. So I'm gonna call it output since that's kind of what it's named over there. And one thing I'm gonna change. So this is one thing that somebody gonna say Python in the comments. I'm already ready for it. I'm using JavaScript. That's what I use the most. That's the language that's most prevalent in my day job. So that's what I use to interview. When I go for jobs, they're mostly jobs using JavaScript. So when I do coding interviews, I code in JavaScript so the interviewer knows that I know JavaScript really well. I don't just code in Python just because it's really popular. I code in a language that I make money from. So y'all come in the comments and say Python. I love Python too. It's cool. I don't use it that much, like I said. It's a great language for coding interviews. It's very human readable. Dynamically typed. Great language. Future, it's like very future proof. A lot of machine learning and AI stuff is built with Python. But JavaScript is great too. It's also dynamically typed, easy to read, easy to do coding interviews in. That's what I make money from. That's what I mostly use at work. So that's what I'm going to use in the interview. So I mean, that's what I'm gonna use to do this coding challenge. So I hope that works for y'all. So yeah, I'm using JavaScript. And I'm gonna change this to const. If you know JavaScript as well, it's not good practice to use var. I don't know why LeetCode. I guess because LeetCode's history, I guess before the best practice kind of changed, they made all these problems using var. It's better to use. I mean, it doesn't really matter for LeetCode because it's not in any context. But you don't want to use var typically because you want to use like const or let, because var variables and functions defined with var will hoist up to the top of the global scope, and that can cause inconsistencies in your application, unexpected things happening where, you know, your variable is available in a scope that you didn't intend it to be, and that can cause like unpredictability. It's just not best practice to use. It's best practice to use like const where this convert can't be redefined anywhere, or to use let where this variable is only within the current scope that it's in and doesn't get hoisted up to the global scope. So hope that makes sense for people that know JavaScript out there, why I changed that. Because if I didn't change it, somebody in the comments was going to say something, especially on TikTok. So I appreciate y'all because y'all be on it. But yeah. So anyway, somebody said they just learning JavaScript right now. Said, Unc, I failed my... Dang, I'm Unc, man. I don't look that old, man. I ain't Unc yet. I ain't even grand yet, man. I ain't Unc. But anyway, I appreciate that. He said, I failed my Amazon OA. So that's what I'm saying, man. They still asking this stuff. So I'm still on here trying to help people and trying to help myself. So everybody's like, use AI, and they not asking these no more. They are. Like, people come in the comment. People, you could tell the difference between people that's really interviewing and people that's really in the industry versus people that's just like reading TikTok or reading Instagram all day or something, or Twitter all day, and they just don't think people think people are not using JavaScript anymore. Like, I had people come on here comment before talking about JavaScript. Nobody's using that. Everybody's using Python. Are you crazy? Like, you can't be in the industry and those words come out your mouth. Like, you need to get slapped for saying that. Like, do never say that. I hope nobody said in the comments. I ain't reading the comments. I'm just saying this. I'm not trying to disrespect nobody, but if you come on here talking about you in the industry and you saying nobody uses JavaScript anymore, like, that means I know for a fact you're not in the industry, and that's okay. But don't just get on here just saying stuff, right? Like, just, you know what I'm saying? Do a little bit of research, like. But anyway, yeah. So we're gonna get into this anyway. With JavaScript. So yeah, I don't even know what I was doing. I guess I was answering questions, but I'm gonna move this. Yeah, this is right now. Why does this look like this? Okay, yeah. So, like I said, when I was trying to figure out the problem, or when I was trying to think through the solution, I said, I basically want to create an array of arrays. I want to try to store my result in there first, my zigzag pattern in there first, and then I want to print it out later. So I know I need to create an array of arrays, and what I want to call it rows. So it's gonna be, and I'm gonna start it off as an array, and I'm gonna populate it with, I'm gonna do like a for loop, and based on my number of rows is less than number of rows. I hope this will give me the right. Yeah. I'm going to actually populate. It's probably an easy way to do this in JavaScript, but I'm doing this very simply because in an interviewer, you don't want to be trying to do fancy stuff. And it's also, I think it's more readable for the audience. But in the interview, don't be trying to do a bunch of fancy syntactical stuff until you need to. Get to a working solution. Like, you don't have to use the special things in the language and all these fancy operators and stuff. Just do what's optimal. As long as you know the runtime complexity of everything, just do what's simpler. Because the worst thing I see when I interview people is them getting stuck on like some syntax. They know the problem. They could get to the answer, but they get stuck on trying to do some kind of special fancy thing. So anyway, I'm going to push. Like I said, I'm making an array of arrays. So basically, whatever my number of rows, like I said, I need to have an array for each row. And so what I'm doing is simply making an array of rows, and then each row up to the point of my number of column, my number of rows, I'm just pushing in a new array. So now I got an array of rows. Like I got 3. If number of rows is 3, I got 3 rows of arrays or whatever. And if it's 4, I got 4 arrays. So that's what rows has in it. And the other thing that I want to do is actually, I'm trying to figure out how I want to do. I'm actually not going to do this part yet. I think I'm just going to, because I need to think through how to set it up. I'm going to go through a natural way of doing this problem instead of trying to force stuff that I don't know if I'm going to use it yet. But just from previous thinking about stuff like this. So anyway, I know I need to, I have S here, right? So I know I need to process this string. I need to look at every single character because I need to print it out in the zigzag. So I know worst case, I'm probably going to need to loop through S. Maybe, maybe not, but that'd be the first thing I would try. And how you do that is just a, why did I call it S though? You just loop through the string like this. And this is stuff you got to practice before. Like I told a guy earlier, he's on free code camp learning how to code. You want to just learn how to code before you even start trying to do these problems. This is not a starting point for learning how to code. This is when you're preparing for interviews. So just making that clear. So yeah, so I did a for loop just to loop through the string. And so that means to access each character that I'm looping through would just be S at I. That will give me the current character that I'm on. And so what I actually want to do is, like I said, think about what my solution was before. I want to insert the character at a particular row that I'm on as I'm zigging and zagging through the rows. So I actually, now I'm thinking about it, I need to create a variable called current row so I know what row I'm on. And I'm going to actually start it at 0. So most indexing in most languages, you're going to start at 0. It's more like best practice. And the indexing starts at 0 anyway in arrays. And so it's just best practice when you create a variable, just start the index at 0 for the variable too. It's going to match up so you don't have to do any kind of conversion or something like that. So I'm going to say my current row is 0. That means that's this row. And so I know for my first character, I know that I'm just going to put that straight in there. Like, so I know that I can take, so current row is actually going to be what I use to access the current row I'm on in my multi-dimensional array. Or yeah, is it multi-dimensional array? I guess, yeah, array of arrays. So I know at rows, current row is how I access the row at 0, index 0. That's the first row I pushed in here. And I'm actually going to push into that array. That's the array inside of an array. I'm going to push the character in. So the first time, I'm going to erase this. So the first time this loop runs, the first thing I get in here and do is actually going to be pushing P. Pushing P. It's going to be pushing P into the first, like the first spot here. I'm at current row 0, and I'm at like the first letter of this string right here. So that's the first thing I did. So I'm already off to a good start of trying to build what I'm trying to build. And if you really think about it, I pushed the P, pushing P to the start of this here. So I'm like, it's looking all right so far. I got a little ways to go. So yeah, I pushed this in here, but now I kind of need to do some stuff in this loop to know what I need to do when I come back in this loop, what I need to do next. And so I need to know, like I said, where I'm at. When I'm at 0, I need to zig down. When I'm at the bottom, when I'm at the number of rows, the max number of rows, which is 3 in this case, I know I need to zag back up. And so I need to write some logic to know whether I'm zigging or zagging. So I'm actually going to make another variable called isZig. And I'm going to set it equal to true first. Really don't matter what I set it to, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if the current row that I'm on is let's say equal to 0, that means I'm at the bottom. I'm at the or at the top, you know. I'm at the top. I'm at the first row, which is row 0. If I'm at the top, then and I'm actually gonna like try to condense this. Or can I condense this? Yeah, now I'm trying to figure out what I wanna do here. Yeah, so if I'm at the current row is 0, I actually wanna, I think I wanna set isZig equal to true here. And then, if current row is 0, I wanna set isZig there, else if, and I don't even really have to do else if there, because it never be the same thing, but I'm gonna condense this a little bit so I can have some space so y'all can see. If current row is 0, then isZig is true. And if current row is equal to number of rows minus 1, because I'm starting at a 0 base index, so it would actually be the last row would be number of rows minus 1. So that means I'm at the bottom, so I know I need to zag. And so what zag is the opposite of zig. Zag is the opposite of zig. And so now I know now I'm basically this helped me switch directions based on whether I'm at the top or at the bottom. And so what I also want to do is if I'm zigging, then I want to, because I'm going down, I want to go up a row or go, down a row, which is just adding. Else if I'm zagging, which I can put kind of like down here, you can kind of see current row, I'm going to take away from the current row. So this would be zag, zig. So basically adding a row and subtracting a row, and I screwed that up right here. Adding a row and subtracting a row is just adding a row and going to this row, adding a row to go in this row. When I'm zagging, I'm taking away a row, adding a number here, a letter here, taking away a row, adding a letter here. When I get to 0, I'm zigging again, add one here, add one here. When I get back, I zag again, subtract the row, add the letter here, subtract the row, add a letter here. So it's like basically what this is doing is helping me zig and zag by checking the current row, setting the zig and zag, and then adding the current row and subtracting the current row. And I might be able to simplify this actually. I'm trying to think if I can just do this all in one thing, or if logically that'll screw it up. If I can just add the row without the zig and zag. No, because I gotta keep, because I might not hit any of these cases. Yeah. So basically when I'm in the middle, when I'm in the middle here, or these two rows here, I'll actually skip these two, the zig and zag, because I'm not at the bottom row, right? I'm not at the top row. So I actually skip both of these lines, and then I'll just keep whatever current zig that I'm at, and I'll just, add to it. So I actually do need these to be separate groups of like logic, because it won't run all the time. This one will run at every time. This one won't run every time. So yeah, when I get to 0, then I'm going to change to true. I'm going to start zigging again. When I get to the bottom, I'm going to zag, which is, zig is false. I'm going to go back up, and when I zag, I'm going to take away a row. And so, yeah, I think that's good. So, yeah, once I do that, once I change the direction, I'll always just be adding the next letter at the current row that I'm on. And what that'll do is as I'm looping through the letters, as I'm zigging and zagging, I'll be putting the right letter in the right column, because I keep moving the column up and down based on whether I'm zigging or zagging. And when I get to the bottom limit, lower limit, or upper limit, I changed the direction. So what I could probably use instead of isZig or zag, I could probably use like a direction thing, like a number, like a direction like +1 or -1, and use it to add to these. But I actually like to use isZig or zag. It's more readable to me, and I can just kind of logically know what's going on instead of like direction +1 or -1. I don't really like that as far as like understanding. You want to like do things as simply as possible because a lot of people in the comments will probably come and have like all these optimizations. You can do this more complicated. And I'm not saying I'm doing it perfectly. I can always be doing better. So I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that I'm advising people to do the problem the best way you can understand it. Don't just try to do fancy stuff or better stuff just for the sake of doing it. Because when you get in that interview, the pressure is there. You gotta remember the pressure. It ain't just fun watching a TikTok and just you got no pressure and you just feeling good. When you red in the face, I've interviewed people. They come on there red in the face, man. When I ask these problems and they just can't even think, man. I know they're smart. I know they're capable, but that anxiety, man, that fear, that nervousness gets to you and you can't think and you freeze up. And so trying to just do all this like coolest stuff and try to use the best variables for the quickest thing. Do what keep the simple stuff as simple as possible and keep your mental load as low as possible. And so you can focus on solving the problem. You shouldn't be trying to focus on trying to name, you want to do good. You don't want to just have junk up there. I'm not saying that, but you also don't want to go overboard with trying to just like kill yourself trying to use the best, latest, and greatest of everything. Working solution is always better than none. So that's what I really suggest. So yeah, you do it like that. So yeah, I think this is good so far. So when I get to this point, I'm gonna have this rows with. I'm gonna basically have a bunch of rows of arrays with these characters in it. No spaces, these characters in the second array and these characters in the third array. And in this case, I'll have 4 arrays with these, 4 lines of characters in it. The problem says I need to read this line by line. See, this is where I see people in interviews I give mess up at. Because I can't see the interviews that other people give at other companies. I just see the interviews that I give to people. And what I see them mess up at is they'll get here and then they'll forget about this part, or they literally just won't even read it. They will just miss it when they're reading the problem. That's why I spent so much time reading and understanding the problem. Because I'll get people that'll get here, they'll try to print this out, and they'll be like, why is it not working? And then I have to tell them like, hey, why don't you go look at the problem description and see how it actually wants you to give the result. It wants you to give the result not in a zigzag pattern. It wants you to give the result in a string where you've condensed the zigzag line by line, top to bottom, left to right. And so how can I do that with what I have, with the data structure that I have, which is an array of arrays? Well, I can actually probably just copy this loop again and just process the array of arrays. And I can create this output variable that I had at the bottom here and make it just be, equal to empty string. I just want to use that, equal to an empty string. And I can just append my answer to that. So what I can actually do is I could just do plus or was it equals plus or plus equal? I think plus equals plus. And I can, this is what this does. This is a string, and this will add characters to the string. I think I got it right. See, that's some stuff. Sometimes you get in an interview, man. You think all the stuff you thought you knew, especially if you've been learning a lot too much with AI, you're not gonna have much help. You know what I mean? Like there's some interviewers, they don't even give you an IDE. Like they just give you a Word document to write this in. So you need to have a strong command of the language. You can't just depend on AI all the time. So like anyway, I'm gonna add to that. I'm gonna take the row based on I, so that'll be my row, and I'm actually gonna join the items together in that row with the empty space. So I have an array of arrays. So on every row, I'm getting, when I call this, I'm getting an array. When I call this, I'm actually joining the items in the array together to form a string. So when this runs on this whole thing actually outputs a new string. And so what I'm doing is I'm looking at this row. This is an array right now in my data structure. I'm joining these letters together to form a single string like this. And then I'm taking this single string and appending it to my output string. I hope that makes sense. And so I'm taking the array out. This will give me an array row at I, because remember this is an array of arrays up here. And then I join these together with, this is what you use on a array. You pick your delimiter. This is the delimiter. I just want an empty space. I don't want any space between the letters. And then this will just output a new string from that array to create a string to add to my output. And why? I know is this? Yeah, I think it's got to be equals plus. For some reason that looks funny to me. And so that when this loop runs, it'll keep adding to my output string. It'll add each of these. It'll add this one combined together, and it'll add this one joined together, which should create this string as output, and then return it out the function at the bottom here. So yeah, this is LeetCode for people that's asking. Yeah, so yeah, this is this, and yeah, I think this is right. So in an interview, when you get to this point, it depends on what kind of interview you're in. Sometimes they will let you run the problem. Sometimes they'll make you do the problem by hand. Like I said, I've been in interviews, I think with Amazon. The first interview I did, they didn't, or maybe it been Airbnb. It was one of those companies. I can't remember which one. But yeah, one of them, I remember specifically, he just opened up a notepad, had me open up a notepad, and I just coded in there. And I had to prove to him that my code works without actually running it. And I didn't have any syntax help, nothing. And so in that case, you actually could maybe get away with bugs in the algorithm if you were able to prove to him that's working, because at that point, he doesn't really care necessarily that the code perfectly runs. He cares that you logically came to a correct solution, and you're able to explain it, and you're able to debug it properly. And so in that case, if you can't run the code, what you would need to do is basically like run it by hand. And so how you do that is you take a note. You don't have to do it exactly like I do it, but you take a note of each variable, and current row. And I think I only have these few variables, isZig, and then I think output is the last one. Yeah. And so let's say if S is, I don't really want to do this super long string, man. I kind of want to do a shorter one, because it's gonna take all night, man. I don't want to do no freaking. I'll just do like maybe half of this string and see if I get. Yeah, do like maybe like one zig and one zag, and take out this part at the end. Yeah, I'll take out this. Yeah, I just do half of it. I don't want to take forever to do this. The number of rows, I'll keep it 3. So basically what I did, I'm going to do a problem like up to the L here. Or is it the L? PayPal. Yeah. Oh, and this is, I'm tripping because I took the wrong one. Should be this string here. And then cut that in half to S. So I'll just do PayPal is. So yeah, PayPal. I'm doing like up to this point right here is. So I'm doing like half of it, so it doesn't take too long. So the reason I'm doing this by hand, and I know people, somebody in the comments like, yeah, you still coding, your tail still taking so long. I wouldn't take this long normally. I'm trying to explain stuff to people that may not be on your level. You know what I mean? So everybody not on the same level, man. So I get what you're saying. I wouldn't normally take this long to do it, but this is a medium problem. I know somebody said Facebook maybe asked this as an easy, but LeetCode sees it as a medium, so it wouldn't just be quick. It's not necessarily an easy problem, but it takes me longer to explain. I'm trying to explain how interviews work. So that's why I'm taking longer time to do this. This is not how I would normally do this. So this wouldn't be the speed I would move at normally, because I wouldn't even be talking to you right now about this. So, for instance, but anyway, so yeah, got a problem with 3 rows. So how you would do this, you would just set up your inputs, which would be these 2 things, and then just keep track of all the variables and just run this through it and see if you get the proper output. So my expected output for this would be all the way, oh shoot, I would have a new output. So I don't even know what the output would be. I would actually probably need to, so maybe I'll run this first. Because I need to get with the output. I don't feel like doing this whole thing and not getting the right output, and then I have to start over. So I'm actually going to run this first, and then I'll come back and do this part. So, shoot. I'm going to copy this down here so it's not in the way, because I want to keep it for later. Just copy that down there. So y'all gonna get. I usually don't do this. I usually do it by hand before I run it, because that's what some interviews ask for. I try to give everybody all the experiences. That's why it's taking me so long to do these, for people that's asking. So anyway, LeetCode does allow you to run it. A lot of interviews will allow you to run. They'll have you doing this in some sort of place where you can run this against different test cases. What LeetCode will have is, why are they not showing me the test cases? Yeah, they have 3 test cases here. A, PayPal is hiring, and case 2. And I already see a problem with case 3. I don't think my code is going to pass case 3. But see, that's why I was going to do it manually, so I would have caught that. But actually, I'm just going to let it fail. I don't know. I'm going to let it fail, and then we're going to work through it together if it fails. But I think it's going to fail. But we'll see. So LeetCode lets you run it. And why does it keep, like, it's not showing in the whole screen? Oh, so I already have an issue with row. Yep. So I already have an issue already right here. That's supposed to be rows. So I really started moving too fast anyway. Like, at least at the bare minimum, what I should have been doing is reading through the line by line through the code just to make sure it was as expected. Like, rows, I'm looping through the rows. I'm not doing too many iterations. Like, yeah, I is less than number of rows because it starts at 0. And I'm pushing the rows in. This is pretty straightforward. This loop is correct. Like, I'm not going all the way to this, just going 1 under I++. This logic is correct. Like, I would have went through line by line, like, to make sure that I don't have any typos and stuff like that. I didn't do that. I skipped it. I forgot. But that's what I would have did. I would at least, hopefully, I would have caught that before letting this run. And, like, making sure Zig is Zig. Then I need to go plus. Else, if it's Zag, I need to go negative. Row equals 0. I need to change to Zig. If row I'm at the end, then I need to change to Zag. Or isZig equals false. And in here, I loop through all my rows again. Get the row here, join it together, add it to the output. Output's just a string, goes out there. All right, so I at least did that now. But still got it wrong. So output is null. Output is null. Okay, what I do wrong? Output. Is this not right? Did I just screw this part up? It's supposed to be plus equals. Join. Yeah, why is output? Or maybe I can't use output. I may not be able to use output. Well, I guess I had that. Y'all remember when I was doing this, how troubled I was by this. I couldn't remember. I just had like a brain fart. I just couldn't remember which order this was. So, yeah, I think that was the issue. And you know what's weird though? Is I got all the test cases right. Basically, it took example 1 from over here, example 2 from over here, and then they added another test case. So test case 1 is example 1. Shouldn't it be like expected output or something? Wait, test result. Yeah. Test case 1 expected this, it got that. Test case 2 expected this string, it got it. Test case 3, when it was A and number of rows was 1, it got the expected output. So that actually worked. And I'm trying to think, am I missing any edge cases where like number of rows? Yeah, I guess I'm good. So yeah, so it's working as far as these test cases are concerned. I don't know why I keep struggling to open. I don't know why when you click on these, it doesn't open them. Like, wouldn't it be good just to open these when you click on them? Like, open the whole thing. But anyway, it's LeetCode UI. So yeah, it's looking pretty good, man. As far as so far, like, you might get in the interview, and if you get this, you might be done with that problem. Especially if they're trying to rush you through to another problem. Where at this point, they would ask you about space and time complexity. So, space and time complexity, man, that is, well, let me read some comments first, make sure folks ain't just completely lost. I think, yeah, this is LeetCode. Appreciate people that's jumping in. Yeah, I think everybody's talking to each other, which I love. Yeah, so that's cool. No, people are just giving each other advice, so I appreciate that. So yeah, I guess I'm just gonna keep going and answer some questions after I get done. But yeah, so yeah, I've basically, so far, for people that's just joining, so far, the question is at the top of the screen. Zigzag Conversions from LeetCode.com. It's a coding challenge that you would use in certain coding interviews, especially from big tech companies. They like to ask these still to this day. It's starting to change, but a lot of companies still ask this. I'm saying it. Some people in the comments just did interviews. They're saying it. So it is still true. AI has not completely taken over the coding interview yet. They're still asking this stuff. You still need to know how to code if you want to get to that big tech company money. That's just what it is. Now, you can slide around it, go to a different career path. Some companies don't ask these questions. You can get around it. But I guarantee you, if you don't know how to code yourself, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Like, if you just rely on AI and you don't learn any fundamentals at all, it's going to be tough. I know it's just nothing in life is that easy, man. It's just not that easy. If everybody could just buy a ChatGPT subscription and just get great jobs and make money at Google, like, y'all think that's true? Come on, y'all. Like, we not that dense, man. We know better than that. We know that's not how life works at all. And so we still gotta learn this stuff. They're not about to just let people in there that just got a ChatGPT subscription and they just can put these into algorithms or put these into queries and get the answer. Like, we know that, y'all. We know they're gonna give us harder interviews than that. So, I mean, we could play that game if y'all want to play it tonight, but it's just not. That's not what's happening, y'all. Y'all know better than that. So anyway, yeah, we're doing these interviews. We're doing this. This is what I got through the solution so far. I ran it through LeetCode, got its correct answer for the 3 test cases that they had in there, and I think I actually added this one before because they should only have 2. So I think I might have added this one a long time ago or a while ago. I don't know. Maybe I added it before I don't remember adding that. But anyway, it's good that it was there because I need to test that edge case. So that edge case it was testing was the case if like with a short string that was only one, because remember my constraints earlier, I could have a string with only one, and I could have a number of rows that was one. And so with LeetCode, well, you know what I'm gonna do to start talking about now is time and space complexity. That's what I was gonna talk about. So also when you do these interviews, the interviewer will ask you, even if you get the right solution, they'll ask you about the time and space complexity. That's the whole point of them asking you this, is because they want to know that you know how to optimize algorithms. You know what the time and space complexity of what your algorithm is doing, of what your algorithm is. Because like I said earlier, people ask, why would a company ask this? I don't agree with this style of interviewing, but there is a reason why they ask these. Because at big tech companies, they deal with the most scale. They deal with the groundbreaking scale. Like companies like Facebook, Google, Microsoft, they deal with a technical scale that is constantly, especially like Netflix. I mean, they, you know, the groundbreaking work they did with streaming. They work with a scale that is beyond, that is always breaking new ground. Like they're working at a massive scale, not like regular tech companies are. These are big tech companies. And so there, if you write a bad algorithm, it's possible for you to write a bad algorithm that can cost thousands, millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars in resources. You can write an algorithm that can take a database down. You can write an algorithm, like these companies have outages, and sometimes they're caused by bad code, bugs, but also sometimes they're caused by bad algorithms that are wasteful, that use too many resources because they're not optimized to use less time or less memory. And computers, in the basic fundamental of computer resources, you have CPU, you have like if you build PCs on your own, you know what, you can buy a CPU and you put it in your computer. You have memory, runtime memory. That's the RAM that you put in computers. I know a lot of y'all might build your own PCs or at least know about RAM and CPU from just buying a computer. That's often in the product description. When you're running these programs, these big tech companies are running these programs, it's utilizing CPU, it's utilizing runtime memory, it's utilizing databases for longer term memory. But runtime memory, when these algorithms are running, they're using to store these data structures and these functions and these variables. It uses runtime memory. It's not saving it to a database. It's using the runtime memory that's on the current machine that it's running on. And so if your algorithm is using too much RAM or too much CPU, then that will force the company to have to vertically scale, either add more CPU power or add more RAM, and then they'll hit the limit of that. There's only a limit of so much you can add to one machine. And then after that, they'll probably vertically or horizontally scale first. And that means adding more machines in a sort of a chain where the request from all these users can go to a different machine to prevent the CPU and the RAM from spiking out of control or becoming too high. And so when you do that, the company has to spend more money. Either they're having their server, they're hosting all this on-prem, they have their own machines, or they're using something like Amazon Web Services, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, GCP, and they're hosting everything in the cloud. It automatically scales for them. Google or Amazon manages it, but they're going to charge you more money because your algorithm is bad. Like, it's possible that can happen. I've been in real production situations where that's happened, where somebody wrote a bad algorithm, wasn't optimized, and it cost the company too much money. Somebody had to go in there, make the algorithm more efficient. It used less database. It hit the database less, which saved money. Used less RAM, which we had to then helped us use less machines. Whatever the case is, but there's times when it does matter. It does matter, and then even in the browser, like now browsers can handle a lot. They can handle a lot, but like if you have like inefficient algorithms in browsers, sometimes you can lock up a browser, like where the browser gets stuck and like the application is doing something inefficient, and you can lock the browser up for the user. I've seen that happen. And I haven't seen it happen as much lately because the computers have gotten better, the browsers have gotten better at handling when that happens, but it still can happen. And hey, on YouTube, man, I appreciate y'all jumping in on YouTube and commenting. Mirzan and Qbyte, appreciate that. And everybody on TikTok especially, like probably the most people on TikTok. But yeah, anyway, yeah, so that's why you ask these problems. So anyway, that's why I was talking about time and space complexity. You have to talk about that in the interview after the interview. Some of y'all know that some of this is basics. I get it. But I always just go over it again for people that may be new, that's jumping in here, that just in different spots, you know. They're just in different place with this. So how space and time complexity, I just explained what space and time complexity are. Time complexity is basically how many operations, how long does your algorithm take to run based on the size of the input, how many operations does it have to do based on the size of the input, how long does it take to run, how much CPU, basically what will affect the CPU utilization. Space complexity is how much additional runtime memory does your algorithm use based on the size of the input. It's all based on the size of the input. Like I said, when you're doing a side project, your input may be small. You may have like 10 users or 10 things to process or 10 records to process, whatever you're doing in your application. You may have 100,000. But when you start talking about big tech companies, you're talking millions, sometimes millions per second of things you have to process per second. Sometimes hundreds of thousands per second, millions per second, whatever the case is. The amount of posts that Facebook does, for instance, or the amount of page loads it has to do, or amount of processing text, like it has to process text for bad words or whatever the case is. Like, you know, these are, you know, I'm simplifying it. It's definitely more complex than that, but these are the problems that they had to start solving when they started, you know, back from the, you know, inception of technical issues and scale, especially since like 2008 with the rise of these big tech companies, the FANG companies, Facebook, Amazon, Apple. I mean, I know some of these have been around, but like this new wave that came after like 2008, when you had like a lot of companies got started in 2008, like Airbnb and Uber, and it was just a big boom of big tech companies. And so that's when these, you know, Google started asking these coding challenges when it boomed out, you know, Google boomed out or whatever. And so, yeah, that's when then all the other industries started, or all the other big tech companies and some of the medium size and even some of the smaller ones started copying them, and it became pretty prevalent. So just a little history lesson on it. Not a perfect history lesson, but just at least from what I know. But anyway, so yeah. That's what space complexity is. And so it's all based on the size of the input, and how you measure that is something called big O notation. And that basically groups the space or time complexity, gives you a way to describe it, how it scales, how the space complexity and the time complexity scales based on the size of your input. So when you have one thing, how does it scale with one input versus how does it scale to 1 million? If you're like at a big company that's running 1 million, just say they have to process 1,000 rows or 1 million rows or 100,000 rows or whatever the case is. This string is super long. Now we know from our problem the constraints are pretty low. It's only 1,000. But at a big tech company, that may not be the case. You know, it may be you may have to process 1 million rows or something. I don't know. You know, per machine, you may the whole company might be doing a billion records a week, but you know, per machine, the machine may be allotted to do 1,000 each, and even, you know, and it has to be able to handle that scale without tapping out or causing issues. So basically that's what time space complexity is. And so how you measure that? So you start with time complexity. That's the number of operations that run based on the size of my input, and the sizes of my input here are the string length and the number of rows. So how many characters I have in this string. So in this case, it's like, I don't know, what is it, like 15, something like that, in the teens. Number of rows is always 3, so that's pretty short. It can be up to 1,000. And but you really don't care about what the number is per se. I mean, you care about the upper and lower bounds, but you don't really care about what it is dynamic. But you care about how the algorithm is scaling with it. So I know that this is, no matter what the size of these outputs are, this will always just run one time and just set up one array. So this is nominal. It's not really impacting on the time or space complexity. But this here is looping directly correlated to the size of the number of rows, which is 1,000. Or it could be, you know, 3, or it could be anything. It's dynamic. And so I know here I kind of have something that's tied to the size of my. If this is 1,000, I got to loop 1,000 times here and create 1,000 of these, which runs 1,000 operations. In that case, it actually uses space because it sets up the space complexity is what is your algorithm using as far as runtime, additional runtime memory in addition to your input. And so based on the size of my input, I actually will set up 1,000 rows if this is 1,000. So I would have a data structure, an array of arrays that have to sit in runtime memory with 1,000 rows in it, which actually ain't that much based on like modern day computing, what it can handle. But you know, you have to just think about it in the sense of like this could be 1 million, this could be 10 million. This may not be just a simple array. This may be like tied to a database or tied, you know, you don't know what impact this could be once you take it out of this simple leak code kind of playground that you're in. Like this could have real world application if it was in a different scenario. And I know these problems seem trivial and stupid, but that's what they're trying to test. They're making a simplified problem to sort of emulate some of the issues and concepts that can happen in a real job that we have to deal with scale. And so, yeah, in these, it doesn't matter what the size of the input is, so they're nominal. Here, this is directly tied to the size of my input. So if the length of this string is 1,000, I'm going to loop 1,000 times. If it's 1, I'm going to loop 1 time. And so this is still just doing one operation. It's still using what I've already accounted for up here. These are all just one operation inside of here. But this whole thing, so all this would just reduce because it would reduce down to being nominal because it's just single operations. But this here is actually scaling with the size of S. And so, and then down here, this is another loop on top of this one that's also scaling with the size of number of rows. And so in this case, what I'm seeing is that based on the size of my inputs here, my algorithm, based on the things that actually impacted by the size of the inputs, is scaling linearly. Like I'm like for every input I have, I'm linearly doing that much more operations and I'm linearly storing that much more data. And so I'm only going to, even though I create these arrays, I'm only going to store up to the number of characters here. So the amount of data I actually store in my space is actually still always just going to be this number of characters. Even though I'm creating all these arrays, the actual data I'm storing in it is never going to be higher than this number of characters. Now this number of rows, if this number of rows is 1,000, it still doesn't matter because, well, no, it actually does because of how I'm creating it. So it actually probably would be better for me to optimize this, to actually check the size of this. And if it's less than number of rows, don't create all these rows. You know what I mean? Like I don't need, like if I can't even make it down to zigzag back up, if I can't even make it all the way down, then what's the point? So I kind of see an optimization here, but I'm not going to do it. But I do see an optimization here just talking to y'all about it. But anyway, since it's linear, you actually display that in big O notation by saying big O of n, and where n is the length of S. So usually in big O notation, you just call whatever your size of your input just n. That's just best practice. And it's also AKA like known as linear time complexity. And it's the same for the space complexity here. Because I'm basically just populating the array or this array of arrays with S. Now it actually might be the size of this, like whichever is higher, like because I am, if this is 1,000 but then this is only like one character, then I've just created like 1,000 rows here for no reason. So I actually don't think that's optimal. Like I actually think if this is like if this is like 1, then I should just create 1 row and just be done. I shouldn't just go ahead and create all these rows. So yeah, that's kind of not optimal, but I probably could say, I wonder if I could put like a condition in here if like whichever is lower, number of rows or S. the length of S. But I'm not gonna do that now. I'm just gonna keep it how it is and see what I get. But I do think that the big O notation is big O of n and big O of big O of n linear time and space complexity. So anyway, LeetCode will let you run this. LeetCode will let you run this. I've already run it once against the test case, but LeetCode will actually let you run it against all the test results. Yeah, so I got these right there, but it'll let you. So what? I'm sorry, I'm not explaining this well. So what LeetCode will let you do is run against 100 different test results, not just 3 like I just ran it against. That's how you just run it real quick to see where you're at and debug. But like to really submit it to LeetCode, to really tell it how you did, it'll run it against a bunch of test results. And it'll also compare it against other people's submissions on LeetCode and give you sort of like a time and space complexity comparison to other people. And so we'll see how I do. Because right now I only know that this works against 3 solutions. Oh, yeah, so I actually got an issue when I tried to run it against all the test cases. So let's see what I got. Line 15. Cannot read properties of undefined. Did I screw something up? Oh yeah, I think yeah. So number of rows. So yeah, I think I messed up in number of rows here. Cause I only have 1 row, but then I tried to zig and tried to zag. So this is actually a good thing that I didn't have in my test case. So let me add this to the test cases. So yeah, I found the issue. So I'm gonna add that to the test case. So A, B, and 1. And so like, yeah, if I was in an interview and it depends on what interview you're in, but you might run against a bunch of test cases, and if you get one wrong, then you have to go back and debug it and figure out what's wrong. It's not necessarily a bad thing. If you go back and figure it out, then it's a good thing, because they want to see how you think most of the time. Most good interviewers want to see how you think. So it's not a bad thing. Now, if I had to do it by hand, like I said I was going to do earlier, I'm tired now. I'm not going to do it by hand. If the interviewer caught that I wasn't covering this test case, they would have said, yeah, that looks good, but what about this test case? Can you handle this test case? And they would have said, try it with this one, and I would have tried it, and it wouldn't have worked manually, and I would have had to fix it too. So I probably would have had to fix this in both cases. But sometimes the interviewer might not even catch that you're missing a test case. They might be happy with what you got and just move on. So what happened here, I pretty much know the answer to what happened here is I'm not handling the case where I have, like I was kind of touching on it earlier with the time complexity. I'm not handling the case where S is larger than the number of rows, and I'm still trying to like zigzag even though I don't even have that many rows. I only have 1 row. So in that case, I don't even need to zigzag. So what I can do to easily, I could try to handle it down here, but what I can do to easily handle this edge case is just say if number of rows equals 1, then just return S. Because that's all that's happening. If number of rows is 1, then you just return a string. And this actually is better than trying to handle it down here. Like this uses less resources, less time complexity, less space complexity. If I only got 1 row, then I know that I'm just going to return S. So just do it. Just do it right there and be done with it, and don't waste any more resources or anything. This is the only edge case like that. And so I'm going to run my test cases again. Yeah, so now I passed that new test case that I failed. I want to run it against all the LeetCode again and see if I fixed my issue. I'm actually glad that happened, because I thought that was gonna happen. Remember, I was saying it the first time. I was like, I think I'm gonna fail a test case here, and I actually just had the wrong test case in mind. But I was hoping to fail it the first time, and then I could explain it then. But I didn't fail it until I hit the LeetCode thing. But yeah, now it's accepted. So it ran it against 1,057 test cases, which is great. Or sorry, my bad, 1,157. And And yeah, and it beats 38% of runtime complexity, which you gotta take that with a grain of salt. If I ran this again, it'll give me a whole different result. And it said I beat 31% of memory. This is against other people that have done the problem, but every time you run it, it gives a different result. So I don't really trust that. But here it lets me analyze the complexity. And so LeetCode is using some sort of AI or something to do it. So like I said, it's big O of N time complexity. So that's pretty sufficient for most problems like this. Which you don't want to, I'm not going to go through the whole big O explanation of the different types of runtime complexities you can define or set or name or whatever. I'm not going to go through that tonight, but it's something you definitely need to learn about before you do these interviews, because you have to be able to describe it to the interviewer. If they asking these questions, they're going to make you describe it. Yeah, and also the space complexity is the same thing. Like I said, big O of N. So luckily I got that right, fortunately. I could have put my foot in my mouth with that one, because I was a little confused about this part. Like I do think this it's still linear. So N, you define N as one of your inputs. If you have another input size, then you actually want to define it as like M or another variable name. And so I was thinking that maybe space complexity would be whichever one of these is larger. Whichever one of these dominates the number of rows or the number of letters in here. But in this case, I think it just all reduces down to just the length of this string in that case. So, which I might just be thinking about it wrong. I might just be overthinking it. But that was my first instinct to go with big O N. And fortunately, I was right. So if I would have been in an interview, I would have been all right. And so, honestly, how I did it, even with the mistakes I made, I would have passed the interview, or at least most interviews I've been in, I would have passed it. I just would have done this a lot faster without over explaining everything. Like I wouldn't explain what big O notation is. I wouldn't have answered questions in the chat. I wouldn't have over explained how interviewers do questions and the differences between different companies and interviews. I wouldn't have talked about FANG companies. Like it was like literally 50-60% of the time I wouldn't have spent doing all this stuff. But you know, hopefully it's helpful to people that are new to this stuff. And Whittington's on here. What's up, man? He said my solution beat 100%, and that didn't even take that long. Man, okay. Screenshot it and send it over, and I'll look it up. That 100%. You probably did beat 100%. I mean, if I kept going, maybe I could figure out how to beat 100% too. And then I probably need to make this a lot less readable. And like some of this stuff I'm doing is wasteful in my code. So I probably could beat it a lot faster. He said he's dead serious. Okay. That's what's up, man. I want to see that. Is this Leet? Yeah, this is LeetCode. So yeah, I'll answer a few questions now, maybe like a 10 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. I wasn't planning to be on here a long time this time. I think I've been on here like 2 hours. Usually I'm on here for 3 hours. Is this a daily? This was a daily I think from a few days ago. I can't remember. Sometimes I pick the daily, but then by the time I do the live, it's like not the daily anymore. Cause like what I'll do, it take me a little while to set up these streams. Like I'll take a screenshot of this zigzag thing here, and then I'll kind of like set the screens up, because like when it take me a lot to sit down and do these, so I like to just have everything set up. So when I sit down, I don't have to go through this whole thing of setting up my microphone and all this crap. Some of the stuff I already have set up, of course, from before, but some stuff just like taking these pictures and the renaming the stream name and all that stuff. I don't like doing it. So I know I'm just rambling, but yeah, this may have been the daily a few days ago, to answer the question. Sometimes I do the daily, and then sometimes I just go, if you go on LeetCode and go to problems, I just go from the top down from ones I haven't done before, and I just pick one that's like medium or easy. And it's just been a lot of mediums lately. I've been doing mostly mediums. I may do a hard one eventually. But I mean, shoot, I spend so much time talking, but I feel like it's been helpful. I mean, I feel like I get the most interaction when I actually take time to explain how the interviews go, what's best practices in interviews. People don't, like, I didn't know that stuff, man. I worked in the industry for probably like 5 to 6 years before I even knew about LeetCode style interviews, coding challenge style interviews. And I didn't know that it was, there's a structure to it. And like, you have to know how to, like, people are blindsided sometimes. I feel so sorry for them because it's sort of like gamified a little bit. People come to my interviews and they're just blindsided. Like, we're having a great interview. I'm just asking them questions. I'm seeing how they work, seeing their experience. And I'm like, hey, I got a coding challenge for you. And they just completely blindsided. Like, they just like, what is this wizardry that you got me trying to solve right here? Like, this trivia question that you got me trying to solve. I've never had to do anything like this. But other people, it's like a flip of a coin, or like I don't know, it's like a breakthrough that happens where you become familiar with LeetCode and then you learn it, and like, it's a big difference between the people I know that never done any LeetCode or this style of interview and the ones that have. And when you haven't seen it, it's very hard. No matter how good you are, it's very hard to work yourself through it without having the best practices in mind, and at least having done at least a few of them. I know some senior programmers, even some junior programmers, that probably could work their way through some easy problems over time. But especially in the FANG interviews, because of the time constraints, it still just makes it really difficult if you haven't been practicing them for the interview. Like, actually practicing LeetCode for the interview. It's hard if you just come in there just off a job and without practicing and solve an easy problem in 15 minutes if you've just never done them before at all. Like, because it's just not something certain jobs have you doing day to day. Most jobs actually won't have you doing these day to day. I mean, you wouldn't be doing these anyway day to day, but even work like this, like writing algorithms and stuff, you know, it's not, most of those problems are solved at most companies, even the big companies. A lot of those problems, like a lot of the you'd be using a library that's doing it, or that problem has just already been solved by somebody, you know. And unless you're doing like the cutting edge of like some machine learning or AI stuff, or some big new scaling problem to solve at a tech company or something, or like, yeah, you run into a bad algorithm that somebody wrote and you need to optimize it. It's just not something that people are normally doing day to day. And it's certain, like, front end developers probably never need to write an algorithm. So, you know, because a lot of the issues, a lot of the things on the front end, it's, you know, you're not gonna load all your data to the front end, so you don't have to deal with massive scale. You're gonna have like lazy loading system on the front end, so you're not dealing with massive scale. Modern browsers can pretty much handle a heavier load than they used to be able to, and modern computers. So it's not really certain professions or certain sub groups of engineers that never have to touch these day to day until they start interviewing. So then they have to go back to, like, if I got an interview tomorrow, start back interviewing tomorrow, I'm gonna start back grinding these LeetCodes again. Now I'll be much better off than I was the last time I interviewed, because, well, I guess the last 2 times, because the first time I did it, it was like insurmountable. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to pass interviews with this style of problem. It's like they could ask me 1,000 different problems, and there's just no way I'm gonna be able to solve it. But once I started focusing on learning data structures, becoming super familiar with them, learning the algorithms and pattern recognition, being able to recognize what solution to use for what types of problems, then it became much easier to answer any type of problem. Now, I failed a bunch of interviews, you know what I mean? So, but I passed a lot too. I passed past FANG interviews, past mid-level interviews, past some startup interviews. Like, so you're gonna lose a lot too, but you're gonna pass a lot too, and that's where the beauty comes into it. So, and yeah, Willie to say the yapping helps, especially when the hards, you yap your way to understand the problem. Yep, just keep talking. Sometimes some interviews are just, excuse my language, it's just kind of like, well, I don't think I can cuss on, you can't cuss on TikTok. One of them you can't really cuss on, but anyway, some of them are like, they being a-holes or whatever. So they won't help you. But a lot of times, the more you talk, the more chance, if you have a good interview that knows what they're doing, because everybody's not a good interview. That's the thing people don't talk about. Some people suck at giving interviews. People don't talk about, just because you're a good developer, it don't mean you're a good interviewer. Interviewing is a separate skill. And so if you have a good interviewer though, and you start talking to them, like Whittington said in the comments, like they're gonna be able to at least make sure you're going in the right direction. It's gonna be a conversation to a certain degree. And even if it's not, if you got like an interviewer that don't want to help, don't want to talk, like he said, like talking through it, it might open something up to you. And at the very least, you're trying to show the interviewer how you think. And that's the main thing. Even if you can't solve the problem, certain cases you may still pass the interviewer even if you don't get the problem right. So, oh dang, what did it say? I just yapped my way into understanding LeetCode hard and just one shot at the implementation. Yeah, see, that's it, man. And that's crazy, because LeetCode hard, that's tough, man. Some of those LeetCode hards are just insane, man. I was in an interview, I was in a 45-minute interview. The guy came on the interview, and I knew the problem. This is like when I first started trying to do interviews after I had kind of went through my first big LeetCode grind. And he asked the hard problem, and I was like, I know how to do this one. But it took me so long just to code it. I just wasn't fast enough. And that's part of the problem too. That's why you gotta get to the point where you're fast enough, as well as knowing what to do. You still gotta be fast enough. You gotta get over the nervousness, the anxiety, and you gotta be quick. And you can't be so quick that they don't know what the heck you're doing. But you got to be quick enough to where you got to keep a track of time. For an easy problem, you should be getting that done in 20 minutes tops, really 15. And because usually if they ask you an easy problem, they probably going to follow up with a harder adaptation to the problem. They may ask you the easy problem and they'll say, well, what if they'll throw a wrench in it? What if you got to do it like this? And so anyway, yeah. It took me 5 solid years to actually become a decent programmer. You're always learning. I'm always learning. That's why I'm still doing these. I'm not coming from a position. I don't want it to be confused that I'm coming from a position that I know everything. I think there's probably a lot of people in the chat that's probably better at me at LeetCode. Some better, some worse, some the same. I'm not an expert at it, but I can say that I'm verified in the sense that I was able to pass every level company types of interviews. The startup companies, the mid-level companies, and the FANG companies, the FANG level, the biggest companies, Amazons, all that kind of stuff. And I was able to get offers from these companies. So I can at least say I was able to get there. Do I know everything? If you just if y'all just sent me a problem, just threw and told me to solve it, I could fail it too. I haven't been practicing LeetCode outside of doing these lives. Now, when I go back to when I actually looking for a job and I'm doing LeetCodes day in, day out, then yeah, then I'll be ready to take on that challenge. But right now I'm not super practiced on it. It's been some months, maybe a couple of years now, a year at least, or 2 maybe. But I try to keep my mind warm with them by just at least making sure I do 1 or 2 every week. Sometimes more. And so, yeah. So then when I do get back to the grind, I've been talking to y'all so much about it. It's it's going to be much easier than it was last time. So, the last time I was starting from nothing, man. And so, anyway. Yeah, man. But yeah, anyway, it just takes you time. It's a constant learning battle. Now AI is here. We got to learn how to adapt and use AI. And we're basically becoming context engineers more than software engineers, just learning how to give the AI the right context and learning when it got the wrong context and reviewing AI code. But we still, knowing these basics will still keep you valuable, in my opinion. Everybody got it. We probably going to move into that AI discussion here soon because everybody got different opinions on it. But I'm in the mind that no matter what happens, I'm going to keep growing my skills. I'm going to keep getting better. There's a lot of people that will come and say, what's the point? And you could say that for any industry basically at this point. Like, what's the point of learning anything at this point? And I personally just can't throw up my hands and just stop learning anything and stop trying to have any ambition. Because that's all I really see when I see people say that. They say AI is going to take over everything, so what's the point? And then they just stop doing anything. They don't try to pursue programming anymore. They don't try to go get that degree they were trying to get. They don't try to learn, do that boot camp they wanted to do. They don't try to do anything. And it's like 5 years from now, would you rather have like tried to build your skills up and did something, learn something, at least learn how to code with AI or something, versus like not doing nothing for the next 5 years and then AI still haven't taken over and you just still sitting there? Because as much as people on here yapping and stuff talking about AI's taking over, yeah, I was watching y'all have these same conversations in 2022 when ChatGPT got released. It was like late 2022. Like, somebody could go look up the release date of ChatGPT. They said the same thing, 2022. All through 2023, I had to get on live and listen to people talk about how AI is going to take my job in the next 6 months. Then they said it's going to be 9 months. Then they said it's going to be 2 years from now. And then now we're in 2025. We're 3 years later, almost exactly 3 years later, and it still haven't taken the job. So now somebody going to come in here and say, well, it's going to be 1 more year. And now it's going to be 2 more years. And I say the next 5 years. So, like, I mean, you can go ahead and start learning now. Go to school. Go to a 6-month boot camp. Come out of it. Get into it while the getting's good. Then when AI takes over, you'll at least have some experience or whatever. Or maybe this doesn't happen. This AGI thing they're trying to reach doesn't happen as fast as they say it is. I don't know. I really don't know. But I just know that sitting on my hands ain't really gonna solve anything. It's really not gonna help. I'm even cool with the people that say, hey, I'm not gonna be a programmer anymore. I'm gonna try to move into something else. But hey, man, the AI and the robots, they coming for everything, man. Once they put the AI in the Tesla bots and all that stuff, and these companies building these robots and stuff, I mean, what are they not coming for? You know, maybe, I don't know, people using AI, like my wife's a therapist. They using AI for therapy and stuff now too. So they're using AI for teaching. You know, so I mean, it's like, it's a lot of, I mean, if you got a robot that can give a massage, they do an AI for massage. Like, it's gonna get weird, man. It's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get weirder before it gets simpler. So, you know, I mean, anybody can just throw up their hands. So I know I'm just kind of ranting on it, but I truly believe, like somebody said, Christopher Cole said, it's making every engineer a 5 or 10x engineer. I believe what's gonna happen in the shorter term is that a lot of jobs are gonna be lost. And it's going to be less engineers using AI and being more like managers of AI, like software engineers being like instead of having a team of 10, you might have a team of 3 to 5 that are like managing AI agents, you know, and so they're kind of the gatekeepers for security and building a context window and managing the context window, managing the cost, making sure the AI has the right context. You know, me being at my company that I've been with so long, there's a lot of context just in my head that isn't in our company documentation. It isn't in our, it's nowhere. It's not in our code base. There's a lot of things I get asked about every single day that's just nowhere. And so just me as myself, I'm part of the context that the AI needs to do certain things. And so that's kind of the biggest gap that AI has right now to me is like the context window management. That's why everybody's saying context engineering is kind of the next wave for engineers, software engineers. And also just long-term work, like having an AI, because the context window is fixed for most of these companies. Like they can't keep a window open for so long because the model, like these are LLM based AI that we're using now, and there is a theory that we're starting to hit a wall. Like we hit the low hanging fruit and we're starting to hit a wall because, like ChatGPT 5, for instance, ChatGPT 5 is not changing. They trained it for months or years, and then that's it. That's the model. Like ChatGPT 4 or 4.5, whatever it was called, That was the model. Like, it's stuck at that model. Once they trained it and released it, it's stuck there. The way they work around it and make it seem like it's learning is the context. Like, they remember your past chats. You can plug MCP servers into it. You can give it instruction files. You can do all these different things to give it, and then your prompt, of course, you can give it context with your prompt, and you can plug it into your company documents via like MCP servers or some other integration. It has access to the internet. That's probably the most important one. It has like live access to the internet, and so that gives it new context that it didn't have when it got trained. But it's not actually learning anything. That's why OpenAI, their whole goal is to reach artificial general intelligence, AGI, where it's actually learning. And it's actually like, if I teach ChatGPT something, when you ask it, it should know what I taught you. But right now, it really doesn't know what I taught it. It can't help you with something that I taught it. And so, because it's still stuck within the context window of what I'm doing. So they use clever ways to make it seem like you tell it, hey, I want you to talk to me like Abraham Lincoln. And it's just saved that context it saves it in, Cursor database or you're on your machine or wherever it saves it. But the more it saves in that context, the more that context window grows. Every query you make after that becomes more expensive, because it has to like pull in all this context and keep it and run it with every query that you run against the LLM, which is fixed. The LLM is not getting any of that context you add to it. That's getting stored in some database that Claude is using or storing for you, or ChatGPT is storing for you, or a Cursor is storing for you. It's not getting added to the LLM, and so what, some tricks people use is, they'll, context management, they'll, try to condense their API documents, or, update as the LLM is getting information, they'll upload it to the internet, so then they can just ping the internet every time it needs it. That's making the context more available to the LLM or to the AI. So there's tricks to reduce it, and it'll get reduced soon. But the reason I said all that stuff is that those limitations are still where the human has a lot of power, because it still can't beat like 11 years of like context window that a human would have about a product. And so I'm still having to help. Like, when I have to use AI every day, like I'm using it to give a first shot at most of my code. Like, I only jump in if I can do it faster. If it's like I'm like prompting it, it's just not doing what I want, and it's getting stuck in a rabbit hole, I'll just jump in there if I can. If I can do it faster than I can type a query. And but most of the time I use it. But a lot of what I'm doing is just context window management. Like, I'm just trying to make sure it has the information it needs to write the best code and up to the standards that I want it to. So, but anyway, Whittington, you asking if they let us use LLMs at work? They didn't want us using just anything. I'm not gonna. I guess I can't. I don't know how much I could talk about that without I don't want to let something. I don't think I'm not supposed to be sharing all that. But I guess what I'll say is that we are using, I think it's public knowledge, we're going to be using AI, but we can only use approved systems that are not going to take our proprietary data. So just like I'm trying not to share proprietary information right now, is that we can't use, that goes for anything. And most companies aren't going to let ChatGPT, for example, train off of their data. They're not going to let us put our code in ChatGPT and let it train off of our data. And so, yeah, that's kind of the gist of using AI at work, at many jobs today. So I'm not going to talk about what mine is doing, but that's the general consensus of what's happening at most jobs. They usually pick one of the AIs and they make an agreement with them not to train on their data, and that's the one they let the employees use. Typically is what I've heard and seen. So you should code as much without AI. I mean, I think when you're learning, for sure, my people are gonna disagree with this, but my thing is I like to let, even when the AI writes the code, I'm reviewing the code that it writes, and I like to let it teach me. Like, and sometimes it writes code that I don't like, and I still go in there and change it, or I prompt it to change it to the way that I like, because I do have experience writing code without AI. Like years, most of my years was actually without AI. For somebody new coming in, they might have written more code with AI in college than they did actually write their own code. I don't know. But in that case, I do agree with you that like people need to still know the fundamental. Even if you're not writing the code, you need to understand the code that the AI is writing. It's harder to do that if you're not writing the code, to me. But I'm old school, so maybe, I don't know. Maybe with this new way of doing things, I do think software engineers always did review more code than they write in a professional setting. You always going to review more code than you actually are writing. Like you might review 3,000 lines of code just to write 2 lines for a bug fix. Like that's just naturally how the job has always been in general. And so it's really not as different when I'm letting the AI write the code. I'm still just reviewing it for the same factors that I was reviewing other people's code for. And when I'm like searching through code to solve a problem, I look through the AI's code to make sure there's not a bug. And this is from somebody that works a professional job utilizing AI. It still mess up. It still makes mistakes. I know people will just constantly go on and on the internet how it's like so great and it's going to take jobs and it's this and that. It still makes mistakes. It's times when it's so amazing that I'm just like, dang, man, this is really helpful. And there's just times when and some of it can be my fault. Like I'm not prompting it correctly or whatever. That's fine. But that means it's not a magic tool. It's not a magic, fix everything problem that they could just kick everybody out and just use it. So because even if they kick everybody out, somebody has to give it intention. Like, even if I'm just sort of like the one that's giving it the context and the intention it needs to do what it needs to do, there got to be somebody. Because if you got some dummy that's prompting the AI is not going to do as well as somebody that actually knows what they're doing. And so that's what we see all day on the internet. We see people vibe coding apps. The AI is very good at vibe coding apps from scratch. It's very good at that, going from scratch. But where it kind of falls over is when there's like massive code bases and massive amount of context that it needs to solve the problem. So, yeah, I mean, it just depends. I mean, it just depends on the situation you're in. I just think that you should be trying to build some skill. And so at the very least, what you should be doing, I would say, is using AI to code and getting good at building software with AI. So even if you decide, you say, hey, I'm not going to learn how to code myself because there's no point, I can't really argue with you. Go ahead and do that. But at least get really good at building, at software engineering, which is not just coding, right? Software engineering, we're called software engineers and not programmers and coders for a reason. It's not just about writing code. It's never been just about writing code. It's never been about writing code for me for 12 years. And so it's always been software engineering. So it's more than just coding. Like the percentage of code I write, even before AI, was not that high as you probably would expect. You probably would expect it to be like 80-90%. And it was nowhere near that, even before the times of AI. And so, what I would say is if you're going to decide not to learn the code and completely rely on AI, that's fair. That's your prerogative. Go ahead and do that. I can't really argue with it. I get what you're saying. But I would just say get really good at it. Get really good at software development problems and handling the issues that AI can cause and run into. Because I think it was some kind of Stack Overflow just released some sort of stats where they took a survey where like 80% of devs are using AI, but only like 30% of devs actually trust the AI and that they're using and that's because of all the mistakes that it makes in professional environments. And so, I mean, that's the data, man. I don't know. I mean, I don't even trust Stack Overflow's data completely, but it's an interesting point that they're making with taking a survey, because why would that many devs say they don't trust AI? So anyway, yeah, somebody said 80% meetings. Yeah. How many people here coded with assembly? Oh man, in college, that's probably the last time that I coded with assembly, and it was just for learning purposes. Coding is never just coding. I don't do it as a job, but I spend more time learning all the environments. Yeah, it's more than coding, man. Like especially if you. That's why I tell people when they do their side projects, like don't just do. Because what people are doing now, like what people was used to do with side projects, they code the project and then just be done with it or move on from it or quit it. And now what they're doing, they're vibe coding the side project and then they're done with it and they didn't learn nothing. Like, what did you learn? So, like, now I say if you're going to, that's what I was just saying, honestly. Like I was saying, be a software engineer end to end. If you're gonna take the stance of you're not gonna learn how to code and you're just gonna let the AI do it and you're just gonna be a prompt engineer or whatever, vibe coder or whatever, then take your app to the end of the road. Like actually productize your app. Go through the whole process of deploying the app, building a CI/CD pipeline for the app, how to constantly deploy it, versioning, source control, how to manage the code reviews, how to manage the security, how to manage the accessibility, maintainability, all the principles of software development, not just vibe coding the app, but how do you ensure that the AI can constantly manage this code base over time without getting stuck in a rabbit hole and compounding error? Because the compounding errors is a real thing. If you let it build up those errors and you can't stop it, and you don't know to stop it, it can get really bad. And so, but anyway, like building a product end to end, actually productizing it, actually scaling it up, deploying it into cloud infrastructure, like knowing how to do that, knowing how to scale it when your users go up, knowing how to monetize it, knowing how to set up payment platforms and integrate with them, knowing how to localize to different languages. Like those are software engineering problems that you don't hear about until you actually go into a job. And so sometimes, I'm not gonna say I get frustrated with some of the opinions, but it's like I know the people in the chat that really like work in day-to-day jobs and the problems that you see day-to-day versus like the internet, what the internet is saying is happening. And the problems you deal with day-to-day at a job, like you might spend all day just trying to like figure out some localization issue. Or you might, if you're a front-end engineer, you might spend all day just trying to work on accessibility issues. Or you might, like it's not just these like grand sweeping, like AI is just going to be, you're not just vibe coding every day. Like there's some very niche, hard to figure out problems or like, I guess things you wouldn't think about that a developer is having to work on. Like things when you're using an app, you don't even think about. Like when you're using Facebook, people are not thinking about that the app literally needs to localize to every language that they're in, and they don't think about that Facebook needs to legally be accessible to people that are blind or deaf of hearing. Like they need to be able to navigate the app properly and abide to WCAG standards in order to not get sued. Because they'll get sued by somebody that's blind if they can't navigate the app and get to what they need to get to delete their account or post a picture or whatever the case. So you might have some engineer somewhere that just literally that's all they're focusing on. And so when you're just vibe coding an app and you're not even thinking, you don't even know to think about that stuff. Like you don't know to localize an app, or you don't know that to protect from cross-site scripting, to how to protect your application from being hacked. Because I think that's what they say happened with that T app that they say it was vibe coded. I haven't seen any substantiated evidence to say that it was vibe coded, but they say that the T app was vibe coded with AI. They didn't worry about the security because they probably didn't know to worry about it because they didn't learn any fundamentals. They just went on AI and just started prompting it. Everybody thinks the AI is perfect, but the AI doesn't have intention. The AI is a slave, for better lack of a term. It may sometimes suggest things to you, but if you tell it to do something, it's gonna do it. It's doing what you tell. You're still the knowledge leader and what to do, the intention leader. You're giving it intent. If you don't give it intent to protect you from certain things, it won't do it. It has no reason to. It has no motivation or initiative to do it. Now, sometimes it may warn you about things, sometimes, but it's not perfect. And so anyway, I'm just saying that, that's what happened. I think that's what happened with the T app, that, they got all their user information hacked. Like, and this is not like some hacker went like deep, did this deep hacking thing. Like, their database was like basically wide open to like a very simple, like you would learn this your first month, like as a junior engineer. And so so it doesn't really matter whether they vibe coded the app or not. If AI was so great that they could vibe code an app, why did they get hacked? And then say they didn't vibe code it. If AI was so perfect, right? If AI could just solve all software engineering problems, then they shouldn't have got hacked, right? Like they should be using AI every day, and it should be just constantly fixing everything, and just, like it should have caught that before the people caught it. Why did the human catch it before the AI caught it? Since AI can take our jobs in 2 weeks from now, AI is going to take over everything. So, I mean, there's a big difference between what we're doing on the internet versus what's happening in real life, I think, sometimes. But am I like trying to like down AI like it's not powerful, like it's not going to take jobs? I'm not saying that. Like, it's definitely coming for jobs, coming for everything, all that stuff. I'm definitely not saying that. But I am saying that it's in the companies, it's in OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, Claude, or Anthropic, whoever owns Claude Code. It's in their best benefit to oversell what it can do in a short period of time. So I'll just leave it at that and move on to some different questions. You ever on Blind? Yeah, man, I'm on Blind. Yeah, they always talk about this stuff on Blind. Like, everybody's scared. Some people, like me, they're more optimistic. And then Blind just lets you know everything what's going on with your company, all the secret dirt and stuff. But Blind is great for information. It lets you know what people are asking in interviews. It helps you get referrals. Like, it gives you very good information, because Blind is an anonymous site, so you have to use your company email to be on there. So you're definitely from that company, or at least you were at one point, but nobody knows who you are directly. And so people are really loose with information on there. They'll tell you about, like, you'll find out about like layoffs early. You'll find out about what people got asked on interviews, and you go in the interview, you already know. Like, I used that the last time I was interviewing, and some of the stuff showed up. And so it's I say it's a necessity, man, in the tech industry, because it leans more toward the tech industry. It's a necessity to use Blind. Now, is it very toxic? Yes. Like, it's toxic in the sense that people are very they say it leans more negative. So, like, if people don't like the leader of the company, they start talking trash about them and stuff like that, because they know that nobody knows who they are. I don't really like that. It's like, you can't say something to somebody's face. I don't really respect you too much. Like, to be honest, man, I don't really respect keyboard warriors. Like, like if I can't say it to your face, I'm just not gonna say it. That's just how I live my life most of the time anyway. Like, if I ever do gossip, I just go ahead and expect that the person that I'm gossiping about probably gonna hear it. And so that helps me not say anything to somebody that I don't want that I wouldn't feel comfortable with the person hearing it. If they heard it, then they might channel, be like, hey man, that's how I felt. So if it's something I feel that's beyond that, then I'm just not gonna say it. I'm not gonna jump on Blind and say some crazy stuff about somebody, and I'm not willing to say it to their face. Like, that's just not me. But anyway, that's the problem with Blind. But I do still think it's a necessity to be on Blind if you're in the tech industry or you're trying to get into it. I really do. So, everybody be talking about PIPs. Yeah, that's the main thing. And PIP is performance improvement plan. And a lot of those big tech companies, some of those companies, especially Amazon, it's really notorious for it. That's one of the reasons why I actually didn't go to Amazon. One of the reasons they was doing a lot of layoffs at the time that I was gonna go. And the other reason is I just heard their work culture was too much of a grind. But anyway, a lot of these big tech companies have these performance improvement plans. So like they'll try to grind you out like crazy with work, like long hours, all this stuff, crazy on calls. And then if you're not performing, they put you on what's called a performance improvement plan. And what that basically means is that they basically getting ready to kick you out of the company. And I'm not gonna sit here and talk like performance improvement plans don't exist in other industries. They definitely do. Yeah, it's just something that gets talked about on Blind a lot because it leans more towards tech. So yeah, anyway, I'm not gonna somebody asking where I work. I'm not gonna share where I work. It's on my profile though. I'm not gonna talk about it on the video, man. I did that last time and I feel like I went overboard. But you can easily find that out. I'm live on like every channel, like Facebook, not on Facebook tonight, but YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I'm live on always at the same time. So yeah, if y'all want to like switch to other platforms, follow me there, and then you'll be able to see the live from there. But definitely like follow if you want to see these more often, or see my tech. I post regular tech content too. So just to plug myself for a second. But yeah, I mean, also just like DM me like if you got questions that I didn't get to, because sometimes I get on these rants and I don't answer. I don't answer all the comments, but I'm gonna try to read through a couple now before I get off of here. Oh, Whittington said I lied about my solution. By the way, it got confused with the spiral 2D matrix problem. I mean, getting 100 on any of the problems, or the hard ones especially, that's pretty good. I DM you on Twitter like 5 minutes ago and still left you on red. Yeah, my bad, man. I saw that like the other day and I was like, dang, man, I never responded to him about that. I was just tripping. Like I actually didn't even check the messages for months, and then when I saw it, I felt so bad. I was like, well, I'm just gonna leave it like I didn't check it. So my bad, man. I'm gonna respond to it. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. For people that may have just joined, I just did this leak code problem at the top here. This was the solution. It passed on leak code. Now I'm just answering some Q&A. And I said last time when I got to the Q&A part, I was just gonna put it up on the screen because people are joining the live and they're just like, why is this code just sitting up here and he's not doing anything? But anyway. Let me answer. Let me just try to find some more questions on here. Go to YouTube. What's the importance of graduation degree and all this? So I just watched this one guy on Instagram today. I still will vote for going to get a degree. I got a computer science degree, but it was a long time ago. It was before the times of AI. And all that stuff, long before the times of AI, like 10 plus years ago. I think a degree, it depends on how you learn. Some people can do boot camps because they're self-motivated. You got to be a little bit more self-motivated. Some people need to be in a university or a college and like have an instructor and have office hours and like have a place to go to and sit in person to learn. Some people get on these boot camps and they don't know their learning style and they just don't get anything from these boot camps. And so you need to find out how you learn. Some people learn better in school because they get forced to go to class. Some people learn better self-motivated. They can self-teach themselves. Some people need short-term boot camps and they can get away with that. And not get away with it, but they learn better with that and they spend less money. I support all the ways of learning. I support them all. But a lot of people try to down getting a degree because it's so expensive. But I still think a degree on a resume still looks good. It still helps you get interviews. It's just unfortunate part of the system is that these old school people are still in leadership roles and they still like to see degrees on a resume. So it will help your resume to have a computer science degree on it if you're going for a programming job. Not that you have to have one, right? You can get a boot camp. You can do self-teach. Like I work with people that don't have a degree. I work with people that have different non-tech degrees. It's not a necessity, but I can't sit here and lie to y'all and say it don't help. So and I can't say that it's not a good way to learn how to code, like going to school. So it's still valuable. And I do hope that schools will start to properly integrate AI into their learning and teaching instead of just trying to like tell y'all not to use it and then just like kick you out of school or fail you if you cheat using AI. If they find out you cheated using AI, I hope they start to try to integrate it into the learning and help, for the real future that's going to be what's coming up. But you still should, like, that schools, like college is actually the best place to learn how to code with AI, because then they can kind of still teach you the fundamentals. Because like when I was in college, like he made us take tests, like, or like one of my best teachers that taught data structure and algorithms, he made us write the code on our tests. Like we had coding projects too in his class. His name was Dr. Dye, but he made us write down the code, and that was the best way, because we like really stuck the fundamentals in before we ever really touched the keyboard. And that was pretty important back then, because you had to do whiteboarding in interviews. And so I used to hate it. Like I used to think like, why the heck? I used to make fun of it. Like, why are we writing for something that we won't be doing on the job? We never write down code. But lo and behold, when you start back then, when you did coding interviews, like I'm doing this coding interview on this site, back then you actually had to go into Google Office or whoever's office and actually like whiteboard the code. And so he knew what he was talking about. Like, he knew what he was preparing us for. And it helped me. Like later on, like it helped me. He like jumped on my live, like, I don't know, it was like maybe last year or year before. And it was just, I was so happy about that, because like I used to struggle in his class, and for him to jump on there and like kind of be commenting and stuff like that, and like for him to just see where I came from in his class, till I know I'm like on a tangent, but where I came from on his class to like being able to get on a live and do coding challenges like this is like, that just was like a good moment for me, for him to be on there and see that. So anyway, I still think, just having that experience from just going to college, I think it was still a good thing, but it's not a necessity. I'm in my final year as a computer science student. Congratulations, man. You're almost at the end. Can you give me advice so I can land a good job easy? So I would say the best advice now, I think like people were saying it on TikTok in the comments, is to do real projects. And like, I would take them as far as you could take the projects, like productize them, like actually maybe even monetize them. Like, you know what I mean? Like take them to the end, deploy them, take them all the way to the end. We actually deploy them to a real URL, or if it's an app, mobile app, deploy it on the app store, because you're going to run into problems that you won't run into just simply vibe coding the app and just leaving it on GitHub. When you do, that's like the worst way, because you vibe code this app, you don't even read the code. You just try it out on your local machine a couple times and then you just forget about it. You don't learn anything. Like as far as software development, when you try to deploy that code, you're going to run into bugs and issues. And at least from that point, you'll start to run into stuff. And then when you deploy it somewhere, somebody might get on there and say, hey, this is broken or this is broken. And you're going to run into problems that you wouldn't run into normally just doing a side project. And so I really suggest, especially in this time of AI where people are relying so much on the AI to write the code, the value of like really becoming a real software engineer and learning how to use AI to build software end to end. Because if you don't do that, if you just think you're going to get a job just letting AI write all your code every day, it's just not. You're not going to get a job like that, because they're not going to give you. They're going to give you an interview that's harder than that. I promise you. Even when I know Facebook said they're going to switch to letting you use an AI in interviews, don't be fooled, man. I hope y'all don't get fooled. Because I think what's going to happen is y'all think that you can just buy a ChatGPT subscription and go into a Facebook interview, and you think because they letting you use AI that you're going to be able to pass that interview. That's what I think a lot of y'all thinking out there right now. And that's not going to be the case. They're going to make that interview so hard because you can use AI. And if you don't know software development, if you don't know concepts, they're going to trip you up. I promise you that, man. I don't usually promise stuff. I promise y'all that, man. So please don't let this AI time. I see it. If you go back and read, especially on TikTok, you go back and read the comments, you're going to see probably about 20 comments of people saying, why are you doing this? Just use AI. Why are you coding anymore? Why are you learning to code? You're going to see about 20 comments of it. And that's fine. If that's how you want to think about it, that's fine. But I promise you, go on a Facebook interview if they switch over to using that, and we'll see who's right in the end. I guess I won't promise you, but we'll see who's right or wrong in the end. Cause I got a feeling when I'm doing these live like 2-3 years from now, I got a feeling that it's gonna be the same as I'm gonna be saying the same thing I was saying 2 years ago in 2022. I was saying all this same stuff 2 years ago when they were saying all this. They were saying, why are you doing these lives? And it's like, that was 2 years. That was three years ago. That was 2022. I'm like, come on, man. I'm doing this in 2022, and they still asking these problems. They're still, so come on, y'all. Like, it's coming, but you still gotta have some skills, man. But anyway, yeah, Rudy said, I've been in it 15 years. I agree with you 100%. Like, yeah, these people not gonna let, man. Facebook, man, they paying these people $500,000 total compensation. And that's base salary plus stock plus benefits plus signing bonus. And so, even entry level, they giving these people like $300, $400. So it's like they're not about to let you in these jobs because you paid $20 for ChatGPT Pro. So come on, man. So you got to learn some fundamentals. And now is the best time because AIs can help you learn. So just make sure when you're vibe coding that you're at least reading the code and you're at least making it explain to you what it's doing. It does a good job of that. It does a good job of explaining itself most of the time, especially like Claude Code. And ChatGPT 5 is actually better than when it first came out. It was kind of bumpy, but ChatGPT 5 is actually pretty decent too now. But Claude Code is probably still the king for coding, but anyway, yeah. Some companies will let you use AI for your code signal, but they got hard AF, man. Like they tough. They're gonna like go crazy. They're gonna make you try to build some kind of dang app or something in a 40-minute interview, something crazy, man. And so that's why this guy that just asked, I'm about to graduate, what can best prepare me for like this new wave of interviews and stuff. And like Whittington is saying, like this other guy, I think Rudy was saying, like, I think the best thing you do is just build software end to end. Even if you're using AI, like learn how to do it with AI, learn how to do it on your own if you want. Because I know some of y'all gonna say you don't want to learn the code. But at least learn how to do software development and AI. So if you get in one of these interviews and they're asking you to use AI, you can build an app really fast. Like you can build a mobile app really fast. You can build a web app really fast. You can build a console application really fast. You can fix security issues really fast. You can fix accessibility issues really fast. You can fix bugs really fast with AI. Like get super fast because they're going to find a way to make the interview hard. I promise you that. Because that's what the LeetCode interview, that was one of the purposes of it. Google basically admitted, well, I don't know if they admitted this. I don't know. This is what I heard. Is that they invented the LeetCode style interview because they rather weed out a good candidate that just doesn't know how to LeetCode versus taking in a bad candidate that doesn't know how to code well. And so what they're doing is they know that some people will be great, like me. Like 5 years ago, I didn't know how to do LeetCode, but I felt like I was a great developer. I could work at any company. But they rather weed me out versus getting a bad developer that doesn't know how to code well as far as data structures and algorithms. And so they're taking like the positive. They know there's a negative side to LeetCode problems. They know it. They're fine with it. But they know the level of candidate they're going to get that knows how to LeetCode. They're going to make a better hire more of the time than they're going to make a bad hire of somebody that just can't code because so they rather just take the risk, take the downside. And so that's what a lot of companies are doing with these. So anyway, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. It says there's no money for people that don't do data structure and algorithm. That's the golden line. At least for right now, it is. I mean, they may start I know Facebook said they want to switch to doing AI interviews. But I got a feeling about this, man. I feel like they're gonna make, like Whittington said, they're gonna make these interviews so hard, and they're gonna find a way to throw some either some software development issues in there, or maybe even some sort of data structure and algorithm issue in there that even with the AI is gonna be hard to solve. Like, I feel like they're gonna find a way to do it, man. And they're gonna find a way to do it. Or they may let you use AI, but they may not let you use an AI integrated IDE. And you can't just copy the code back and forth. So if you can't copy the code back and forth, or they may let you use AI in the interview, but they may not let you write the code with AI. They may sit there and watch you and like say, hey, you can go over to AI and ask it questions, and you can copy code and paste code over, but you can't just use an AI integrated IDE where in like agent mode where it's just like building files and stuff for you. And so they're gonna find a way, man. I'm telling you. But anyway. Oh, yeah, man. Whittington. Yeah, that's a good one, man. So he said that they may give you a custom LLM and instruct it to give you errors intentionally. And I know you laughing about that, but that's perfect. That's what I feel like they're going to do. That would get you, because it'd be like they just make the AI like hallucinate. Like, it can do that anyway. Just give it some sort of hallucination situation where you're trying to use it. It's hallucinating, give you some bad code, give you some issues or whatever, and they got the instructions in it or LLM built into the LLM where it can mess up these certain things, and then you got to be able to fix it, or at least prompt it around the guardrails that they put in there to make it mess up and try to fix it with the AI, or at least you got to know yourself the fundamentals, whatever that is, to fix it. That's going to be crazy. I could see that being the case because that's what they want. They want engineers that are able to read AI generated code, manage AI, and detect when the AI has hit its limits and making mistakes. And so I can see that, man. I actually really glad you commented that because I didn't even think about that as an option. But they're going to figure something. I knew they were going to figure something out. So if that ain't it, they're going to figure something else out. I'm telling you. I'm in first year of software engineering. What should I do to stay ahead? It's the same thing, man. Just building software on your own. Find something you're interested in. Like there's an app that you know you don't have that you wish you had. There's something you do on your phone or do on your computer that takes a long time to do. Even if there's already a solution out there and you think you can do something better, now is the best time to do side projects because you can do it AI assisted. I would more recommend that you do a lot of it on your own. Even if you're going AI assisted, I would lean toward making sure you at least see what the AI is doing and making sure you're learning. Have it explain to you what it's doing. It's hard for me to say because it's like I didn't learn with AI. So it's like hard for me to give advice not to just not use AI, like to not do any coding yourself. And a lot of people like kind of getting started in like 2022 and after, they're going to say like just use AI for all your coding, like never code yourself. And it's like it's hard for me to say that because I just didn't come up that way. And I may always be like that till I retire, man. And you know, that may just be just a product of my time that I was born, you know what I mean? So, or my time that I got in the industry. So, but I would say build projects, I guess, to answer your question directly. Like if you have time in school, build your own projects on the side. And it won't be as hard as it was for me as it was for you because you will have AI to at least teach you how to do things faster. Because AI is like the greatest teacher, man. Like there's still YouTube and boot camps and courses, and other stuff that you can learn to use. But AI, you can ask it a very targeted question and get a very targeted response about what you need to learn. And even if you let it write the code for you, you still can prompt it to help explain. If you don't understand something it did, you can prompt it again and say, hey, why'd you do that? Or what does this mean? You said you did this like this. It does a good job of explaining itself, but you may need to go deeper on some aspect so that you understand. And so anyway, but honestly, you really want to look at what the interviews are doing. Like you always like get on blind.com, the blind app, see what's getting asked in interviews, and make sure you're practicing stuff that's in interview. Because at the end of the day, once you get out of school, it's gonna be interview prep. And so the best you can, the reason why I say do side projects is because that you can put those on your resume that can help make your fill out your resume. And the reason I keep telling y'all to do real projects is because, like, what I did when I got my first job, I actually was doing freelancing, and I actually made contracts with people and said, hey, I'm gonna work for you for this many months. This is what I'm gonna deliver. And then I put it on my resume as like contract work. Because I mean, I was contracting, or I don't have my hands like that, but I was contracting. So it's like, to me, that's what I was doing. I wasn't contracting for like some kind of Fortune 500 company, but I'm contracting for an individual, for a small business. And so I called it, I like the word contracting more than freelancing on my resume. So I put it on there it was contract work. And so I had built this social media app, and it was basically a dude from high school, one of my friends. Like, he's like one of my best friends now. And, I just met him. He wanted to do an app, and I put it on my resume after I got done with it. And they asked me about an interview. And because I did a real app from end to end, it was a social media app. It failed or whatever, but it didn't matter because I was able to pull it up in the middle of the interview. And I said, yeah, the same stuff y'all using MySQL database. Yeah, this is how I did all the posts. Like, all these are like MySQL. I had a database for the users. I had a database for this. And this is how, I use this to pull all the information down from the server. And like, I had this API in between. Like, I was able to talk about all this stuff. And they were like, dang, you use all the same. I felt like they was going to fail me. And then once they started talking to me about the app, and I was able to actually show it. And they was like, dang, you built the whole social media app by yourself? And it seemed kind of crazy back then because people wasn't doing that. And so this was like when it was way less. This is like 10 plus years ago. It was way less social media sites out. People wasn't building stuff, side projects as much. And I had built a whole social media app that they could literally go and sign up for. In the interview, they pulled it up. And shoot, I really think that's why I got the job. Because like a year after I got the job, it was like, man, Kelvin's he's like the most improved player and da 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 da. Because I think when I came in, I think they really thought they kind of like were giving me a chance. You know what I mean? Like, they were like, I wasn't really good enough, but they just kind of like, because he built that app, I think he can do it. Like, I was like an overachiever, and I was like, but by the end of that year, I didn't. And maybe they were right. Maybe I'm just oblivious, but to me, I felt like by the end of that year, I wasn't doing anything special. Like, it was like I didn't grow that much this year. Y'all just realized what I could do over the course of the year, and y'all gave me more work to do, but y'all gave me more responsibility. But I could always do that before I even came here. Like, I built a whole social media app that was more complicated than the stuff that y'all working on every day, and y'all knew that in the interview. So just because I didn't run as many users as you, I didn't have this. I didn't know about scale at that time, so I'll give them that. Like, I can only run my social media app, or not mine, but my friend. It was maybe running like few hundred users at a time at tops, but still, I mean, I was able to build it. So, but anyway, I'm just rambling now. Wait, I'm just trying to read the comments and see. I have an arts degree, but I learned to get a certificate course in IT background. That's fine. Like, I mean, I see a lot of people, as long as you have some sort of degree, it does help, even if it's not tech. Like, I see that happen a lot. Like, sometimes you just want to see that you went through college. It's kind of stupid, but there's still a lot of old school. I mean, there's old people older than me still in these leadership positions. And so they on that old school thing of like, college still holds a lot of weight. Now, will they hire somebody that haven't went to college? Yeah, but if you don't have experience, having that college degree holds more weight. You know what I mean? When we hire somebody without a college degree, they're mostly because they have professional experience, or they just interview really well. But it's hard to even get to an interview without even at least having like some sort of boot camp certificate, college degree, or you got to have like put some contract work. That's why I keep saying do contract work. Like put some contract work on your experience notes so they can at least say like, hey, I worked 12 months for Joe's Furniture Shop. Like the more legit the business is, the better it'll look. Like, and even you got to do it for free, man. Like you got to say, hey, I'm going to charge y'all 1 cent and I'm going to build this pizza shop down the street. Site for all his, some local pizza shop. They got a couple restaurants around the city. Like I worked for them and I built their whole infrastructure out over 6 months, a year. Like if you can get something like that on your interview and say that you got paid for contract work, don't lie, because you really need to go do the work. Because if you don't do the work and they ask it about you in the interview, it's gonna be pretty obvious. So don't try to fake it till you make it, man. Like, I know I'm kind of saying like you're trying to kind of project experience, but don't just get on there and lie, because it's not gonna bode well. But like actually try to do it. Associate, bachelor's. Associates helps. Associates is good too. I would, I got a bachelor's, so I'm just gonna, I'm biased to just going 4 years getting a bachelor's. But there's different routes you can take. I don't think you need 4 years to learn how to code. You can go to a boot camp. You can go get a 2-year degree. As long as you learn how to code, that's the main goal. But I'm just telling you that there's still an advantage to having some sort of degree, even if it's not a computer science degree, having some sort of degree on your resume to get through these automated systems that read resumes and to get past that recruiter. Like sometimes recruiters aren't even technical people. Like sometimes they're just in the company. They have a small skew of technical skills. They know the names of certain stuff that they're looking for, but they don't really know the technical stuff. They just know that degrees mean you educated, and they kind of if they see your resume equal and they see one person got a degree, they might slide toward a degree. So, or the boot camp, or some sort of like concrete thing you can put on your resume. But I will say experience beats all. Like that trumps everything. Experience, like having experience on your resume, you don't have to have a degree at all. If you got enough years of experience, you good. So sometimes you just need somebody to let you in the door. But yeah. Oh, somebody said you at Google and hate LeetCode. Dang, who's at Google and hate LeetCode? I get it, cause I have to interview people with LeetCode, and I hate LeetCode. So I have to interview people with LeetCode, and yeah, I hate LeetCode. So I get hating LeetCode. Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. Yeah, Pate. I'm sorry. Yeah, even people that are good at LeetCode hate LeetCode. Yeah, so like we got on here and did this problem tonight. Like it doesn't mean I love LeetCode, and just because I do these every week doesn't mean I love LeetCode. I refused to do it for the first half of my career. I refused to go to any interviews. I said, man, if a company got to ask me that, I don't want to be there. But I realized that like a lot of opportunities, financial and non-financial, were locked behind the LeetCode interviews. And I said, I just kind of told myself one day, I just was like, there's not going to be this thing out here that in the industry that I'm going to be afraid of. Like, it's just not going to be this thing that I can't do. And so I just like kind of changed my mindset and I started doing it. Did I still hate it? Do I still think it's a terrible way to interview people? Yeah, because it's too far away from the job. The best interviews I've been in is where they ask practical questions. And I think like when I interviewed with Amazon, I went for like a front end role. They had a mix. They still asked like 1 or 2 LeetCode problems because it was like 4 or 5 rounds. But they also like had me building like front end components, like things I would actually be doing on the job. Like build this front end component, talk about how you build it, implement the reactivity, implement the structure. It was just, you can use whatever JavaScript framework you want. Like that was more practical, but it still helped test writing not just these trivial style algorithms, but writing optimized code, writing good code, writing code that serves a purpose for my job. Because I wasn't going to be writing algorithms every day. I wasn't going to be trying to optimize code. I was going to be building UI components for Amazon. So it was like they tested for, at least part of the interview, tested for what I actually was going to be doing. I like that better than just these trivia style leak code questions that day to day in my day job, I'm just not doing them day to day. Now, like I said earlier in the interview, there have been certain points in my career, and it happens maybe a few times a year where there is some bad algorithm written that I need to optimize. Like maybe once or twice a year, I feel like in my role, but in some roles it may be more prevalent, some roles less. But as I moved up, now I'm a principal engineer, so that's like one level past senior. It's been more of me reading code versus like writing code anyway. And so I'm doing a lot of code reviews, architecture stuff, solutioning when there's a big problem that's like, across multiple teams that needs to be solved. And then sometimes it lends itself to being like some bad code that was written either by AI or by a human, where it's doing something inefficient, where because the AI might, let's say the AI is let's say the AI is writing some logic to call an API with Google, and it uses tokens to call this API. You let the AI write the algorithm. The AI may write the algorithm optimally to save on the tokens, but the AI may not even be knowing that you're getting charged to call this API, because that may be in the system for Google that you're getting charged. That the AI itself just knows that I'm calling this AI, I'm calling this endpoint, and I know I need to call it with these credentials, and I know I need to get past this data to it and get this data back. I don't know how much it costs for you to use it, so I'm not taking that into consideration when I'm writing this code. So it may write the code inefficient. It may need to only call this API one or two times to do the work it needs to do on the data set that it has to do the work on. But if it doesn't know the context that you're getting charged for this, it may decide that, okay, I'm going to call this every time I need to call it. Like, I'm just going to call it every single time, even if I already have the data I need. I'm just going to keep calling it because you said call it. And so it may or may not write an efficient algorithm for saving tokens. And so you may have to go in and rewrite the algorithm to save on the tokens, because maybe you told the AI originally to call this certain endpoint that gives you one piece of data at a time. Like, give me this one record from the API at a time. You may go back and rewrite the algorithm to say, hey, I want you to make a call up front to get all the records and just store them in memory. I want to trade the time, I want to trade the time complexity for space. I want you to just go get all the records, because I actually looked and saw that it's really not that much data. You're just calling so many times. But if I just go get 100 records at a time, I can reduce the amount of times you need to call by 50%, 100%, 75%. I don't know. I'm just giving a crude example. But that's where there was times where I had to rewrite algorithms to save the company money. Times when servers crashed because the CPU usage was out of control or the RAM usage was out of control, and pods start crashing. Before we were using pods, sometimes there wasn't enough pods. Sometimes the auto scaling wasn't on, or whatever the case. Sometimes all the pods went down eventually, and the whole service crashed, or whatever the thing was crashed. So there was just times when that you have to use it, but certain jobs you might not. Certain jobs it's not that common. And so I went on this tangent just to say that, like, I don't really agree with this style of interviewing. But I'd rather you just ask me the questions about this stuff and just get it through, instead of just giving me some trivial problem to try to trick me with. Like, I don't like that whole thing. So anyway, he said, pods, you one of those scrub companies that use Kubernetes. Hey man, I guess I gave that away. Hey, it is what it is, man. Kubernetes till we die, man. I guess, yeah, it's just how it is. But yeah, I'm always talking about pods, man. But yeah, that's life. That's my life. But anyway, yeah. So let me see if I can find some more questions. Yeah. And I think, yeah, Whittington, you said once before, like, yeah, that jump to senior to principal, that was a big jump, man. That took me forever to make that jump. I mean, it was crazy how many times I asked for that interview and how much I had to prove to get that interview. Like, I mean, why did I say interview? To get that promotion. Yeah, it was crazy, man. Like, I had to, I had to basically get to the point where I was making like industry level impact, and I think I can announce it now because Google already announced it. But yeah, I had to like work with Google, man, to like about this third party cookie thing. Like, I know y'all probably heard that like Google in Chrome, they were deprecating third party cookies. They also did this thing where they started deprecating third party storage, which affected a lot of different companies. Because they leverage third-party cookies and storage to track you across different websites, to market stuff to you. That's why it seems like, you know, you go to different sites and they know what you looked at and they keep marking all this stuff. And that's why they're trying to deprecate it so they can stop all this third-party cookie tracking and stuff like that. But yeah, so like, but it also affected some valid use cases where we weren't tracking people, where we were just trying to store information that you needed to use to kind of persist your experience. And so I had to work with them with certain use cases to like say like, hey man, y'all are gonna like destroy legitimate businesses with this, like that really need to use third parties. They're like, if our product is embedded in another site, like we really need this scenario to still work. We're not tracking anybody. These people want their experience to be maintained across their across different refreshes and stuff like that with cookies and storage. And so I had to work with them to like get a solution created for a different scenario for like the whole industry. Like, I mean, it's like nobody else was saying anything. So like I came up with a proposal and submitted it to Google, and it, I don't, they didn't really, they halfway accepted it. Like they kind of like they just changed, they fixed it, but it was like they didn't say like, hey man, we accept your, they didn't officially say we accept your proposal. So I guess I couldn't get that kind of credit, but I'm taking my own credit because after I submitted that, it was like, yeah. So I like submit, this is all public stuff. This ain't like I submitted on like a public forum, and so it was a big discussion on there and all that stuff, and yeah, it got updated. So now a lot of now third-party cookies, they decided not to deprecate those on their own, I assume. And maybe I was part of that too. I don't know. They just like around the same time they just decided not to. And I'm not saying I made them change it. I'm saying I'm definitely saying I influenced it though, for sure. My feedback influenced it. But yeah, Google Chrome decided not to deprecate third-party cookies, and then they also have a different solution for storage partitioning. So yeah, it was kind of a cool thing. But yeah, once I was able to prove that I actually could make impact across teams in the company and across the industry to some level, like it's just the first principle level. So I don't need to be like changing the world or nothing. I just needed to show that I was making impact above a senior level. So I'm not saying I'm like all that and all, like I'm like the freaking I don't know, the next I don't know who's the smartest, I don't know, technical person at this point, because I'm not gonna name any of these tech CEOs, so I don't know. But anyway, I'm not the one I'm not making like these game changing AI improvements and stuff like that. I just needed to prove enough to get to the next level. So, and the next time I want a promotion, I'm gonna have to go further. So, but that's probably a ways off now. So anyway, I think, man, there's a lot of comments, everybody talking to each other. Yeah, follow each other. Follow me, please. I post content on on my channel every few days, and then I do these lives at least once a week. Maybe start moving it 2 a week if I get good feedback, but feedback's pretty good. But yeah, I love doing these, love talking with y'all, love the feedback. Whether you agree with me or not, I still love the feedback. I'm glad you on here and commenting. This is the kind of dialogue we need on here. Please connect with each other, connect with me. If I didn't answer your question, I know I'm kind of ramble a lot, and then when I was doing a problem, I can't really concentrate on the comments. So if there's a question that's really burning that you want to ask me, just DM me. I'll check the DMs, I'll answer your question. Follow you and everything so we can stay connected and all that stuff. Follow me if you want to see the content, if you want to be notified by these videos. I'm live on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, and X or whatever, Twitter. And yeah, and for people that just joining, I did this coding challenge a lot earlier. Then I just do some Q&A. I think next I'm going to put next time I do this, I'm going to put like a Q&A thing on the screen to let you know when I get into the Q&A period so people know what's going on. But yeah, I basically did this live earlier and got to a working solution. So it's just, and I explained my way I was doing it. I also gave some context about interviewing. And so if you want to see me do that again next time, just please stay connected with me and you'll see when I go live. It's usually on Fridays, but this weekend it was not Memorial Day, but Labor Day. So I had a lot going on this weekend, so I didn't get a chance to do it Friday, so I just did it today. And so, yeah, I'll probably be back on here Friday again, doing another problem. And hope to see y'all then. And I hope y'all have a good rest of the week and a good night. And I hope I see you on some of my posts or in the DMs. And, yeah, that was kind of cheesy, but I'll see y'all next time. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody who joined, everybody Whittington, Christopher Cole, all these people that joined, Pate. There was a lot of people that was early on. I'm sorry if I missed you. People on YouTube, Lewis, Oliver, Nadas, Mohit, Ishot, all these people on YouTube, all the people on Twitter that be on there. I appreciate y'all. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time. I appreciate